What's up, Facebook? What's up, Instagram? I'm going live. If we have any glitches, it's because we are currently under bad weather where I am, and it just seems to be the norm around here right now. Playing with the weather, I swear. They're messing with it. But anyways, so just wanted to go live and going to cover a few things just because I see a lot of comments and messages. And it seems like people are still just so confused. I don't know why, but I do know why. It's because we have a lot of people who are you're just listening to everybody and anything that has a set of lips, and that's what's going to get you in trouble. And it's keeping you in trouble. It's keeping your mind in a fog, and it's keeping you from the actual facts. I think what I'm going to start doing is on Sundays, I'm going to start doing things that's more like a foundational talk. And then somewhere during the week, we'll do the current events and what's current, even though I'm going to cover some of those tonight as well. But this is going to be kind of like start doing integration talks of our foundation, our founders, our basic fundamentals of laws, the fundamentals, just basic core fundamentals, and then also correlating those in with irregular warfare, unconventional warfare, all the different kinds of warfare that President Trump is most certainly using. You see it every day. The problem is people are still, you want to hear, but you don't want to listen. You want to react, but you don't want to respond. There's a huge difference. And, guys like me are put here for a particular reason, all right? And we're here to help you. So, I think that losing my dad has toned me down a little bit just because I do love you. I do appreciate you. But it's more about you than it is about me, right? So, God gave me ability, God gave me a gift, and I share it with you. But you got to be careful who you're listening to because there's so many people out there, they just want publicity. And you just witnessed President Trump, even though this is all strategically planned, you just witnessed, though, what has hit the media that President Trump just issued some subpoenas out to some people. All right? So just because that's mainstream, it doesn't mean you go replace mainstream with the same bull crap over here in the quote-unquote patriot world. You cannot replace what you deem as the swamp with the same application. And you're seeing a lot of people, quote-unquote, out there in the patriot world accusing people of all kinds of things. They've never been in law enforcement. They've never been in the military. All they're doing is taking regurgitation and regurgitating it again. They're not main sources. They're not key sources. Let me tell you how pathetic the world is. So I put my badge up. People go, oh, how do we know you're official? Blah, 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 blah. I put my badge up, and guess what people did? People called the headquarters complaining that, oh, he's abusing his power. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, this is where we are in society. People want you to produce something. When you produce it, then what do? But they're too sissy to say it to you in person. So the main question is, how do you get decency? How do you get decency back into a society who believes anything and everything that they want to believe? Johnny Cash had a song back in like 1970 or 71. Johnny Cash now, in the 70s, but we're talking about the early 70s. What is truth? And today, where we are, the word truth don't mean a freaking thing. The word facts don't mean a thing. Because everybody, you just listen and believe what you want to believe. You just listen to everything that has a mouth because it sounds good to you. It feels good to you. Pretty sure the Bible is written about those things that feel good to you and sound good to you. that ain't really good for you. I'm pretty sure the whole Bible is about that, actually. Which is quite humorous that so many quote-unquote patriots claim to be spiritual, claim to be Christians, but yet they're following the very sly tongues out there that the Bible warns you about. And how do you know the difference? The Bible explains that to you as well. By the fruit they bear. And a lot of you out there, you just opening your mouth and putting a bunch of raw persimmons in there. Because it's this simple. Sounds like advertisement? Oh well. It's this simple. This is a #1 best-selling book and part 2 for a reason. They're #1 bestsellers for a reason. Because these are the very strategic laws and orders, plus irregular warfare, unconventional warfare, applications that President Donald John Trump is using. These are not my made-up laws or my made-up orders or my made-up beliefs and, oh, how I want the world to be and, oh, how I see the world. These are they're all President Trump's laws and orders that are invoked. Now, did President Trump pass all those laws? No. But he invoked the orders that have the laws that support them. And that's what this is. Now, this is intellectual property, meaning like I'm the only one who could do this. And it's intricately laid out. I say that to make point, 2 different kinds of points, is that if you take every law and order that backs it from 2017 to present day, take the economy out of it, take out all the different things like that, and you just take straight up laws and orders that apply to the military only, you'll come to this blueprint that I have provided for you. That outlines a strategic plan via irregular warfare, unconventional warfare, asymmetrical warfare, and all the variables of those that are vast variables. They can apply in many different scenarios. Then you take the 4 ways that military pairs with federal executive orders, national emergencies, proclamations, and treaties. They all require the executive branch, presidential. They're all supported by Article 2 of the United States Constitution. You can't have one without the other. So now we get down to splitting hairs. Too many people out there want to split hairs. It's not a splitting hair contest. President Donald John Trump was put here as the face of an operation to put a divider line, not divide the nation, but a divider line where you get to choose what side you want to be on. You want to be on hypocrisy and contradiction, which is what you have from 2016 and prior, or do you want to be a participant in reshaping the future with our foundation, which is basically a resetting of the Declaration of Independence? So you control your destiny. You control this. But words like decency, truth, and facts, they're so diluted out there because everybody and their mama's listening to a bunch of people who 99.9% of them are civilians who've never been in the military, never been in law enforcement. Now, if this was 1775 again, great. Great. We didn't have an established nation. We needed blacksmiths, doctors, lawyers, farmers, you name it. Now we have all that, and we have to put a divider in that. It ain't about who you are from that nature. However, if you're going to go out there and spew a bunch of things that you don't know about, just because you want publicity, a name, and a face, then that's when we have a problem. Because that's the stuff that keeps people over here. It's not people promoting a greater way of life for everyone. It's not people promoting President Donald John Trump, what he's done, what the military does, etc., etc., etc. We have all kinds of visuals of what's going on right now. So I'm going to read a passage from the Military Government and Martial Law book, which I didn't bring with me, but you've seen me put it up before. But you can look it up by William Burkheimer. It's on page 55. All you got to do is go to Google, and there's actually a website out there, a guy named Andy Ryder, or Reader, however you pronounce his last name, but it has the full book on a PDF form, so you have zero excuses. See, but let me just add out there, because I don't know who's watching and listening. I know a lot of you are reading and studying, because you're the ones who made these books number ones, but the ones who aren't, your friends, your family, whatnot, you have got to read what President Trump is the face of. Until you read what President Trump is the face of and what he's invoked, if you're not reading any of that and applying any of that, you're wasting your time. Wasting your time. Page 55 on the PDF, and it's pretty close to the book, but it should be in the page. It's from somewhere between page 40 and 47. All right, in the book, if you've already purchased it. The Declaration of Independence of the United States laid it down as a political maxim that governments derive their powers, their just powers, from the governed. We the people. And that is the right of a people to alter or abolish their powers, form of government, and institute a new one, laying its foundations in such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. This doctrine, however, is no more applicable in the United States than anywhere else. The history of the world illustrates at once its antiquity and universality. How's a tongue twister? When a people have become tired of their government, it has been their custom to change it. And while many governments have been built and perpetuated on force and fraud, perhaps, yet even these may be considered as resting upon the tacit consent of the governed. Society cannot exist without government, which is necessary to preserve and keep that society in order. To be effective, it must be entrusted with supreme authority. This is necessary not for the gratification of those who may be entrusted with the reins of power, but for the safety of that society, for the protection and preservation of which government is instituted. And, says Blackstone, William Blackstone, this authority is placed in those hands wherein, according to the opinions of the founders of the United States, the qualities requisite for supremacy, wisdom, goodness, and power are the most likely to be found. Now go back and read that one sentence one more time. It says right here, society cannot exist without government, which is necessary to preserve and keep that society in order. To be effective, it must be entrusted with the supreme authority. But here's the key kicker right here. This is necessary not for the gratification for those who may be entrusted with the reins of power, but for the safety of that society, for the protection and preservation of which government is instituted. If we didn't have a government, and if we didn't have a military, you want to talk about dog eat dog? You want to talk about chaos? Everybody would be taking the law into their hands. And then the law would be perpetrated on what they deem the law is. So one day the law could be this, and one day the law could be that, and one day we would never have anything consistent and solid for the mass group of people who think alike. But see, what people don't do is people don't study our founders. People don't go back and study our founders. What was their mindset? What was their ideologies? Individually and together. No one wants to break that down. Everybody's lazy. Everybody wants people like me to do it. You break it down. You do it. You do it. That's what you've had all these years. That mindset of you do it, you do it, you do it is why we have looked the way we've looked. Everybody wants to complain about something, but nobody wants to make an application for it. Everybody wants everybody else to do it. And then what do you end up with? A swamp who takes advantage of you, who puts all kinds of taxes on you, and then you end up whining and complaining about the taxes, but you don't want to listen to the person who knows how it all works and says, well, we need you, and all of us to pull your weight here, 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 and here, but you got to learn it too. And that's why our founders separated religion. Now, there's nowhere in the Constitution, you'll hear people misquote that all the time. Oh, they separated religion. No, they didn't write it down like that. They did that just by being humans, going, hey, we're not going to let our religion affect how we make our decisions. They were adult enough back then to not even have to write something like that down. They just did it. All right? So, they were the original Nike. They just did it. Just do it. All right? So, our founders had this mindset of putting their neighbor first. Now, this is tricky because it takes a real clear thought process to just chill out and listen to what I'm saying. Right? Our founders had this mindset of people first. So let's break it down in simplicities. If I'm thinking about you first, and you're thinking about me first, then that's called reciprocality. We're being reciprocal to each other. And if I'm thinking about you and you're thinking about me, and we don't base our decisions on religion and things of that nature, we just go, hey, what is best for society? What is best for that? Everybody wants to live, marry, have kids, maybe not have kids, maybe not marry, but everybody wants a house, right? Everybody wants to be able to live, to be able to eat, drink, marry, be happy, right? Married from the other standpoint. Just be married, right? Everybody wants that. Now, you have bad apples out there. We have bad apples. There are delinquents, and there are, people who don't have a full set up here, and they do things. We do that because population's bigger. In every litter of puppies, sometimes there's a discrepancy. It is what it is. It's life. You deal with it. But what a lot of Americans, and this don't apply to the rest of the world because of our great establishment, but a lot of Americans don't want to deal with it. They want somebody else to deal with it. And then it just builds and builds and builds. But when you're not a tough society, you're not tough thinkers, and you're not tough doers, we end up with the bullcrap we've ended up with. Then you end up with all these different people out there that think there's somebody, and oh, we got internet. Oh, because we got internet, then I can have a face, and I can have a name, and I can have a mouth. And the wheels on the bus go round and round, and then you wonder what's wrong with society. So when you put your neighbor first and your neighbor puts you first, you still end up with what you want in life. Now you got to think about that really quick. If you put your neighbor first and they're putting you first, you still end up with what you want in life, because if you two people are working together, then what's good for the goose is good for the gander. But what do we have now? We have a society who does what? They put themselves first. It's all about them, me, I. Then they think about you if they have to, or if they're forced to, or if they're pinned down to. or if they're embarrassed to. There's a lot of variables with that. It's all about I, me, I. And then you end up with what? Chaos. Because nobody wants to look at the general application. Some things are general, some things are not. And our founders predominantly were anti-federalists and federalists. The Federalists wanted more federal power. Anti-federalists wanted more state power. President Trump has taken it to where, and then also all the people around President Trump, the generals, and so many people behind the scenes have done a drawdown of federal, more state power, but they've done more than what our founders did in another way, because we have progressed to where we are with a military, established military, etc. So President Trump said there's only a couple of things that need to be federal. Military is one of those. The rest need to be kicked back to the states. So, let me look at my notes. When you go back to the alternative of not thinking for each other, that's how you end up with a swamp. That's how you end up with the establishment. That's also how you end up with people making you inferior to them. Do as we say, not as we do, which you have seen all your life. And then it's like President Trump's been talking about, communism. We will never be a communist nation. And so many people cannot comprehend that. This is why you need to know how to apply the laws and the orders. But communism is this simple. It's where something is taken from somebody and given to someone else. But those people over there that are receiving, they're in the mindset of going, oh, thank you so much. They're not being told that, hey, we just took this from that group of people over there or that person over there and we're giving it to you. And all that does is the same thing the swamp did all those years. That's what they did. They're showing you exactly what the swamp did do. They would go appease this group of people over here. This people would get happy and excited and all happy and all this stuff. This group over here, they're on their way down, or they're down and they've been down. They start rising up, yelling, cussing, complaining, yada, yada. Well, this group over here, they're good. Let's go get them. So it's the same difference as libtards and rhinos, right? They'll go start a fire over here, and they'll yell, fire, 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 fire. And everybody's running to the fire. While everybody's running and reacting to the fire, they're rolling back around here, getting the water hoses and all this other stuff. And then they go over there and put the fire out, look like heroes. Same thing. And it's been this way all these years. And all it does is create division. Chaos plus division equals power acquisition. It's a cool quote. It's a true quote. Chaos plus division equals power acquisition. So you got that group over here under that power. They acquired that power. This group up here, they're the fire starters. They start the fire, yell fire, 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 run over here. That group. This group over here. It's not supposed to look like that. And then what you end up with is what you see all the libtards out there, and all they're doing is playing this out in front of you to teach people, and you're learning what side you want to be on. You're learning the divider line. You're seeing, okay, this group over here calls us a democracy. We're not a democracy. For the 14th trillionth time out there, we're not a democracy. We're not a democracy. How many times we got to say this to people? We are not a democracy. Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution. So see, this is the principles that people can't comprehend. If you're going to use the word Constitution out of your mouth, democracy is not a word that should be in there as well. It's one or the other. That's how principles work. or it's a contradiction. You can't be like, oh, we're trying to protect the Constitution. Donald Trump's destroyed the Constitution, blah, blah, blah. We're a democracy. The Constitution says we're a republic. The man, the sole author of that said Constitution, the Constitution that I'm reading from, the sole author, he wrote this, right, September the 17th, 1787. And then from October 1787 to 1789, they had these things called Federalist Papers. Those were promotion papers to go tell the people why they should adopt the Constitution. Imagine that. They had to have these promotion papers going, this is why you should support it. And in Federalist Paper number 10, by the same author of that Constitution, he says how democracies are dangerous. Imagine that. And then you had your second president of the United States, John Adams. You had him telling you that democracies commit suicide. And see, so what the swamp has done to people is confuse people on decency, facts, truth. And it's become a managed democracy. It's called the illusion of choice. And that's why a lot of quote-unquote patriots, oh boy, your numbers drop off when I'm talking about country music. We'd be having 4 trillion people listening, and all of a sudden 5 people listening. Because you get butt hurt, because you don't want to be told the facts and the truth from a guy who had Billboard hits before I had #1 best-selling books. I had Billboard hits. As an independent artist, beat the system really bad. And then, instead of crawling back, trying to go back to it, I wrote a book about it. And all the swamp is the same thing. The entertainment industry, Hollywood and Nashville, LA music scene, Miami, New York, all your big pubs for music with the major record labels, they're all a part of the swamp. And if you support country music, mainstream record labels and all of them, you're supporting the swamp. All because you don't want to hear. Because, oh, well, that music's my escape. Well, you're escaping right over to the swamp. Imagine that. So what a managed democracy is exactly what the music industry is. They make you think that you discovered these artists. You didn't discover these artists. You were told to listen to these artists. You were told, here's the new so-and-so, and you just hook, line, and sinker right over there. You didn't discover Derek Johnson. Because Derek Johnson wasn't part of the system. So Derek Johnson, as an independent who has the same Billboard hits as all the other artists out there, oh, all of a sudden people don't want to listen to that. You don't want to know how the system works. You don't want to know what you're supporting is a managed democracy, an illusion of choice. They control the consumer, and they tell you who you're going to listen to and who you're going to support. You know how pathetic that is? That's sad. Pretty sad, actually. Because if the whole basis is about music, and music's good, and it sounds good, and it's all, shouldn't you just love music that sounds good? But especially a guy who has the same musicians on my records as all the major record labels. Now, they're not corrupt. They're musicians. They all get paid the same way with me, the same way they do with the major record label artists. All right, they're separate. But I have Billboard hits, the same chart as George Strait. I mean, when I sit here keep naming names, but I don't need to name all of them because it's the same chart. It's the same top chart. It's the top chart in the whole industry. But for independent artists to get on there, it costs $750,000 for one song. One song, $750,000. How many investors do you know out there that will put up $750,000 to beat that? Not many, because it don't happen. So it's the illusion of choice. And that's what Democrats, libtards, predominantly, but also some rhinos out there, that's what they've done to you in every facet. They make you think that, oh, the elections, same thing. They made you think that you were voting, your vote was counting. They go over here and they flip it back here, especially when digital world came about. It's a managed democracy. It's an illusion of choice. They give you the buffet, and you think because you're picking out of the already given buffet that you chose, oh, well, I don't like turnip greens, but I like macaroni and cheese. They provided both to you. And you think because you don't like one that, oh, well, I don't like that. And that was my choice. No, you were already given the buffet. So it's the same thing. Same thing. And patriots, you just keep ignoring it. And you're still funding the swamp. And see, the operation is still ongoing. And I know people get tired of that. But it is what it is. 45-47 is an image. It's a visual to show you. 45-47. Well, just because the dash is already there, the 47 is not complete yet. So, are you telling me that if you're 50 years old, right, and you get to, let's say you get to live to be 90, are you telling me that if this thing had to go to January the 20th, 2029, are you telling me that 12 years of your life wasn't worth cleaning out all of the past from 2016 and prior, but also what your mom and dad listened to all these years and your grandma and grandpa? Are you telling me that 12 years of your life wasn't worth the sacrifice of getting it right, cleaning it up, cleaning it out? Is that what you're willing to stand on? Because that's what you would have to stand on if you cannot comprehend that it's not over yet. But the laws show it's not over yet. You get people out there, oh, these guys are just talking and they're dragging it out. No, it's all bull crap. No. It's the law that is currently invoked right now. So why are the Democrats, if the Democrats are even real and alive and in control out there in some capacity, if laws and orders do not matter, then why are they whining and fussing all the time? Why isn't everything hunky-dory? Why are they always using the laws and orders and butchering and twisting it, that's a good word, that's a new word, rattle trapology. Why are they twisting it up? Why? Why is President Trump put in all his posts, anytime he spells out laws and orders, why is it always in all caps? Please enlighten me. If they don't matter, please enlighten me. Why he's wasting his time typing that out. Why he's wasting his time as the face of the executive branch. Please explain why laws and orders ain't supposed to matter. The Democrats over there, oh, we got to protect the Constitution and laws and orders and the rule of law. Blah, blah, blah. But so if you're tired of all the bickering and the fussing and the whining and the griping and all this stuff, then why don't you act like it? Why are you still supporting a bunch of clowns out there? Why do you support drama? If you really want to be applicable, why don't you support the man you claim to support? Why don't you listen to him first and the people who replicate him first? It ain't that difficult. So President Trump has this quote. He says a lot. And he said it again just about a week ago. He said, all you needed was a new president. Now I'm going to break that down because that's quite fun. And this is one of my favorite topics. All you needed was a new president. So if all we needed moving forward in life was just a new president, without cleaning house of the past, that's the same as when you sweep dirt under a rug and you just make it go away. out of sight, out of mind. That's the same thing. If you believe that, based on the, let me choose the right terms here, the simplistic viewpoint of the average listener who would hear President Trump say that, and not knowing the laws and the orders that are invoked of what he's actually talking about, and I'm going to break down for you, then out of sight, out of mind does not work, period. It can't work. Because if you sweep it under the rug with the deep state out there, they could just go lay low. Be like, hey, he'll be gone in a couple years, but just lay low, be quiet. Social media is bigger now. The internet's bigger now. AI is better now. All this stuff is available for the public now. All these things, they just lay low. They wouldn't create a ruckus. They'd be like, look, this will pass. They quote the Bible like Christians do all the time. They cherry pick. This too shall pass. That's what they'd be doing. This too shall pass. If all you needed was a new president. So this is also a great scenario why we don't need term limits. Because it goes back to, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, if you become a public official, if the House of Representatives on the state level is doing what they're supposed to be doing and not worrying about what the Senate's doing in the sense of trying to do their job, versus, hey, what are we doing to pass the laws for the people, all right, on my side and your side? And if a senator of a state level is doing what a senator of a state level is supposed to be doing, staying in their lane, the same applies with a U.S. House representative or senator. And if the president and the vice president and the cabinets and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, if everyone's staying in their lane, doing what they're supposed to be doing, meaning job application-wise, and I don't mean an application, but the application of their duties, their roles, and responsibilities of that seat of which they're in and what they ran for, if everyone's pulling their weight where they're supposed to and doing what they're supposed to be doing based on why they ran for that position versus just running for any slot just to get in somewhere like people do in counties a lot. People will run for coroner, or people will run for some kind of position that's like, you need it, yes, but then all of a sudden you'll see a coroner running for governor. You're like, doing this. Right? See where we're going here? So if everyone is stay in their lane and do what they're supposed to be doing, based off of their experience, merit that President Trump's talking about, then what do we have? Oh, we have a lot better functioning system. And then if you, the people who don't want to be in public office, but let's say you love laws and orders, or you love, election only and things to do with elections, or whatever it is that suits your fancy out there, if you'll be doing what you're supposed to be doing and knowing what you're supposed to be doing, then you'll be holding all those people accountable, because they are called what? Representatives of whom? Us. We the people. So everyone has a role to play. That's why we don't need term limits. That's why our founders never addressed term limits. Because our founders would have never dreamt that we'd get to a place in society where we're over here having a conversation about people who want to chop their wieners off and things of that nature. Their founders never dreamt we'd get to a place in society where people have to sit and talk about what a male and a female is. And entertain the thought. And let that conversation take place. Versus going, if you don't shut up, I'm going to do what Fred Sanford used to say. I'm going to give you a knuckle sandwich. Right? Now, I don't believe fighting is the answer. But you got to put the fear of God in some people. Meaning, you don't allow certain things to take effect, because words have power. And that old saying, you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. And what have Americans done all these years? Everybody gave it a space, and then what did they do? When they got that little space, I mean, why do they even use the alphabet? Why are they just picking a few letters? Why not just use them all? Just like, all right, 26 letters. We got a queer spot for every one of them. I mean, it's to the point now. It's R-S-T-L-N-E. Can we buy a vowel, Pat? I mean, Jesus. And I don't mean that sacrilegiously. But people, this is not complicated if you're reading and applying what you're supposed to be reading and applying. Everything in life, from the Bible, laws and orders, have to be applicable. They have to be applied. It's not something that you just listen to and then, oh, you feel good for about 5, 10, 20 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, whatever. And then, oh, let me come right back to this again. You got to read, you got to study the things that matter, the things that apply to us, the governed and the government. It's real simple. Don't complicate it. And then stop questioning things like, well, why would you love this so much? And why are you spending this time, dear Johnson? Why? Somebody's got to be the good guy. Somebody has to be the guy that says, you know what, you can't buy me, but I can wreck your system, and I can expose your system, and I can show the people out there what's been taking place, and I can take all your false accusations and all the other things. Because I get all the same accusations that President Trump gets, and then some. And it's up to you to stop listening to all these people out there who've never been in law enforcement, never been in military, and all they're doing is stating an opinion off of something, a source that's already been put out there. People like me who write books, right? People like me who write these. Off the top of my head. No ghostwriter, no editor, no publisher. I'm self-published. Everything. Right? So that's how you separate the wheat from the chaff, even in the world of podcasters. Same thing. Just because we have the internet don't mean that you listen to everything. You got to let the cream rise to the top. So let's go back real quick. So the term limits, that's why our founders never addressed term limits. Let's go from that to the 1871, the 2016 timeline again. We're only going to do a few little things, but the 1870s, the bar was established. If you went to Google right now and typed in what does bar mean, or, does it mean British Accreditation Registry, it'll say no. What else would bar stand for, and why would it be all caps if there's no application of what bar stands for? Now, Google used to do that. It may be corrected now. Not sure. But the last time, patriots know, every time you Googled it, it would tell you, oh, that's not what it means. That's a conspiracy theory. Well, you know what conspiracy theories are now. All of you family and friends out there who called the true patriots, the dedicated patriots, the consistent patriots, conspiracy theorists. Now you found out they were conspiracy righteous, not right just because they're Republican or conservative. They are righteous because they've been right the whole time. Right? There you go. I'm in a fun mood tonight. 1913. So from the 1870s to 1913, President Trump has said, we have more money in the U.S. than we know what to do with. You know what they used then? Tariffs. Well, why did they use the tariffs? The deep state used the tariffs for not the reason for you, but they did what in 1913? Everybody knows. Federal Reserve and then income tax, right? So they started all these bullcrap games. Well, what happened in 1914 and 1917? World War I, right? And then you just play it from there and go up to 1929, the stock market crash, right? What happened in the 1930s? The Great Depression. People forget about that. Oh, my grandpa never did. My grandpa always reminded me of the Great Depression. So, the Great Depression. Then all of a sudden, Roosevelt, FDR, and his Great New Deal had all these things. And your grandparents, maybe your parents, depending on your age, maybe your great-great-grandparents, depending on your age, started putting in all their money into these pots, right, that they created. Oh, yeah. But what happened? President Trump's creating the same things, but it's new right now. So in 40, 50, 60, 70 years, it's up to your children, their children, and their children, etc., 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 to know what? The laws, the orders, policies, regulations, all these different things. Whether it's good, whatever, bad, indifferent, whatever it is. But it's up to people to know that. What did people do? What did all Americans do from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s? What's happened? Education's gone to what? Pot. And then what took place? All these other people out there that manage democracy and that illusion of choice, those people realize these people don't care. They're not paying attention. Majority are inferior to us. When we walk around them, oh gosh, Lindsey Graham, Charlie Kirk. But you did what? They started doing that versus going, I'm going to sit right here. I like this guy, but we're going to find out. I told everybody from day one, anyone who's been following me from day one, you might can find those videos from 4 years ago. I said, what? It's okay. Hold me out right here. Time will prove all. Time always proves all. Relationships, marriages, everything. Time always proves all. Conversations always reveal intent and motives with people. Whether it's relationships, marriages, whatever. Conversations reveal all. Everything is always a consistent basis. You can have 30 years of trust and then one day crash it off. It's always moving forward. And it's always based on consistency. So that's why you had President Trump come in. He's using the tariffs and he's actually trolling what took place from 1913 all the way back to the 1870s. He's trolling them in another manner because he's using the tariffs the correct way. And if you didn't know this, you can know this. I'll have to find the paper. I have the paper. I wrote a paper in 2019 when I was doing my master's degree at Colorado State, my master's in business, my MBA as they call it. All right. And I wrote a paper called Sustainable Unsustainability. And I made my whole paper based on President Trump's tariffs in 2019. And I basically took a chance because sometimes I talk in a you form, and I don't necessarily mean you individually in your screen. I say you, meaning if it's a new person listening, then I'm still talking in first person form, one-on-one, because it may affect you that way, the way you're supposed to. Some people need to feel guilty in order to go read and study and be like, you know what, this guy keeps saying the same thing, consistent, repetitive. But then I have emails and messages all the time going, you know what, I finally went and read and studied, and holy crap, why didn't I read and study this whole time? Bingo. So, same thing. I did a U form to all the professors. Now, only one professor was a professor of the class, but just in case the paper got spread around because it had a good point to it, I still wanted them to feel guilty, if they felt guilty. I'm like, you businessmen, you never apply tariffs the correct way. You want to put them on when you want to and then pull them off. They got to be consistent. They have an application. And so the Congresses made them presidential power, presidential authority. All right, Trade Acts of 62 and 74. I want to go read those. All right, but different things. And then 73, which I'm going to get to in a minute, 1973, tariffs. Tariffs are an actual application of a national emergency. Well, why did the Congress in 1973 make it to where you had to declare a national emergency to use the military, but also in a national emergency it comes with all these statute powers? Well, regulating commerce is one of those. Regulating commerce, tariffs. is one of those. So see, there goes that again. When you hear a Democrat, even though most of this is central casting and it's theater, right? Because that's what 45-47 is. The laws outline it. The laws outline a military government, military occupation, continuity government, puppet government, all different forms and all different time periods have these been applied, but it is what it is. You cannot deny it when you go read it, study it, and you break it down year by year, piece by piece, law by law, order by order. It outlines exactly what it outlines. So in 1973, I mean, we're talking about 53 years ago. So when you hear these Democrats and libtards and rhinos out there spewing bullcrap about the Constitution, well, the Constitution supports a military government. The Constitution supports this. In all these years, Congresses have never changed the 1973 quote-unquote War Powers Resolution. It's unconstitutional in the first place on the premise of the founders and Article 1 and Article 2 and Article 3 of the Constitution, because again, if everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing, then the president's doing what he's supposed to be doing, the Congress is doing what they're supposed to be doing. If we had to declare a war, they should be cohesive with each other, because that's the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. They're co-equal to each other. So if everyone's doing what they're supposed to be doing, they will be in what? Unison with each other. Because you, the people, would be what? In unison. And everybody would be on one accord. And everyone would make the decision together based on what? What's the scenario? What's happening? Whoa, holy crap, what's going on? It's really this simple. Term limits. Going back to term limits. Roosevelt. I love doing this because this is so much fun. I saw a comment about 4 years ago now. Some dweeb out there said, oh, this is the same guy who said Roosevelt served 4 terms. He was elected 4 terms. So he technically served. Now, if you want to get technical, did he serve the full 4 terms? No. But he was elected 4 terms. 4 terms. But then, guess what Congress did in 1951? Put term limits on the president, but not themselves. Whoa, what a coincidence that is. Then 1949, NATO was established. What's President Trump been doing? NATO. But he's been doing what? Hammering NATO. NATO hasn't done this. We've done this. We've done this for NATO all these years. We've done this. We have. But he established the Abraham Accords. And he initially said it's the peace in the Middle East, but now he told you just a few weeks ago, a month or two back, he said, what'd he say? He said, we got other nations now wanting to join in outside of the Middle East. 1950, Title 10 was established. So what did the president do before 1950? Please, if you're a Democrat, if you're a libtard listening, would you please enlighten us what the president did before 1950? Can you please tell us? What did he use to utilize the military? Would you please enlighten us? You see, so many people don't even know. They have no idea that our founders in the Constitution. So see, the Democrats don't use the Constitution, 1787, enacted in 1789. But then we talk about, like let's say National Guard on the city streets and the civil military operations. Well, that's something newer. That's something that's been written newer after back here, even though military operations were always there, but then the civil military, because we have what? Cities started growing, we started having city streets and city sidewalks and city crimes and things of that nature, so you have to do what? In life, you do what? You adapt, you improvise, and you establish new strategies and tactics for the new variables that you're facing. So it's so humorous that they want to reach back here and talk about the Constitution, which is that old, but then they want to say, oh, this is unconstitutional, do this, this, and this. It's not unconstitutional. You got to know what the Constitution says before you can say anything's constitutional or unconstitutional. It's real simple. So see, the stuff is real simple. All right, let's flip over. I'm rolling. So it's like this. In the military, there's a term called police call. It's called police call. You got to police your area. I mean, you got to watch your area, clean up your area. So this is what happens when people stop. Let me specify, we the people, but not me and you patriots that are knowing what's going on and applying all the time, but the we the people out there who are always saying things they don't know what they're saying. This is what happens when that group of we the people stop knowing their roles, duties, and responsibilities. They stop police calling their area. They stop doing what they're supposed to be doing. And then the burden falls on you and I. And when that you and I dwindle down to a small group of people, as the same term as a minority, versus this mass majority of lame brains and low IQs and people who are dumber than an ashtray on a kite, I mean, that's what we end up with. And then they overcome us because they're not pulling their weight everywhere. And then you have the problems we've had. So there had to be a divider line put there. There had to be someone who says, look, it's going to be tough? Yes. Is it going to be strenuous? Yes. Is there going to be some confusion? Maybe. And yes, depending on who it is. But someone had to have a plan to go, look, our people are so confused they don't know their head from their butthole. They don't. Most people out there don't know that. So there had to be someone that says, look, yes, it's going to be a little bit strenuous for a little while. Yes, it's going to be tough for a little while, but we have a plan. This plan can do this, 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 and this. We can utilize military law and federal law. And then you challenge all these lame brains out there, but especially the true deep state when it first began, when they were still around. You challenge them to go, all right, you can say it's quote-unquote unconstitutional to the people, but in the end, we're going to show them what kind of people you are. But you all have to let it play out. All this bullcrap, nothing changes until we see arrest. Nothing changes until you change your freaking attitude and learn how to apply these things to prevent the swamp from growing back. You let the swamp grow. You did that. And it may not have been you that's listening right now one-on-one, but it's going to be someone out there who feels, yeah, I haven't applied myself. No, I don't know what I'm supposed to know. Exactly. So get your head in a book. Get your head in the laws and the orders of President Donald John Trump. Get your head in the 45-47 plan and see what's going on and see what all's changing and what all castles have been brought down. And then make yourself applicable where you feel comfortable. But trying to put someone else's light out and thinking it's going to make yours shine bigger and better and greater is not how it's done either. You see all these people out there, quote-unquote podcasters, all they're doing, this, that, and Derek Johnson's this, and Derek Johnson's that, blah, blah, blah. Some punk who's never been in the military, civilian, regurgitating stuff, don't know sheep doo-doo from Shinola. Quit listening to all these fools out there. All you need is President Donald John Trump's plan and strategy and blueprint. And it just so happens I'm the one that wrote it. I'm the one who was put here and wrote it. And it's this thing right here, part 1 and 2. And it's not difficult. It's not even a novel. It's a book. It's like a workbook. It's not even hard to read. And it's all your laws and orders in the chronological order of President Donald John Trump's plan. And part 3 is being written because we're not done yet. But it's going to be basically, obviously, for future generations, for when they get hundreds of years down the road, they can look back. If they ever get in this position again, they can have something there that says, this is what happened way back here. And they'll have their hindsight 2020, but they'll also have the strategies, the tactics, and the playbook that will further them with better success if they ever encounter such bullcrap again. But especially morons. So, the subpoenas. Talking about morons, let's talk about the subpoenas to the New York Times. President Trump's been hammering the New York Times over and over and over and over and over again. All right, so let's look at this. They're journalists, quote unquote. All right, President Trump, what did he do? He invoked the 1798 Aliens Act. Now, he quoted the 1798 Aliens Act. He didn't say the 1798 Aliens Enemies Act. He didn't quote that. He said the 1798 Aliens Act. Now, if you look back on Google, right, because that's our source today, or DuckDuckGo, whatever you're using, doesn't matter. But if you look, it'll tell you that the 1798 Aliens and Seditions Act, the seditions part was repealed in 1800. That don't mean it can't be brought back. All right, you got to look back. It was a time. It was an act for a time of war. So you got to go back and understand that verbiage and that language. And then they called it the 1798 Aliens Enemies Act. But President Trump hasn't said that. He has said the 1798 Aliens Act. And based on his application of that invocation, based on, that's a tongue twister, based on that application of that invocation, because he invoked that, and the Supreme Court upheld that, based on that, and you look at what he has done to NPR and PBS, CNN, NBC, Kimmel, Fallon, and all these people, The View, I don't know why. Well, I know why, because people don't listen to it until it's quote-unquote mainstream. But The View, they're all under investigation. FCC, they're under investigation. No one talks about that. No one's going to talk about it until it hits some big mainstream panel out there of people who just, oh, Candace Owens. You just got to hear it from someone like that. God forbid some Army veteran out there who's showing you all the laws and orders, and here they are invoked and applied. God forbid that God does what he's supposed to be doing by an oath he took. God forbid that. You know, oh, we got to wait till this so-and-so creates some drama over here. That's President Trump has hammered all these people. And guess when PBS and NPR lost their funding? When the whole world thought, quote-unquote, Joe was president. Now, why would, quote-unquote, Joe rip the rug out on NPR and PBS? Now, make that make sense. Where was the uproar then? Where were all the libtards and Democrats and rhinos then? See, there's a lot of things that people have yet to really listen to me about. Because if people would answer those questions, it would answer everything else. And then it would shut down everything else out there. It would shut down all the quote-unquote politics. It would shut down all the quote-unquote, which is real drama, but the quote-unquote people who claim that they're somebody out there, claim that they're good and all these other things, and all they do is try to tear someone else down all the time. Instead of focusing on the laws and the orders of President Donald John Trump, they're trying to spread all this stuff out there, false accusations on me and different people. They replicate the same people who attack President Trump. They're doing the same thing. They're from the same crowd. Those who accuse people the most of something are the ones who are doing it themselves. And so many people are being misled right now by all these mouths out there, from mainstream and quote-unquote now independent, and can't tell the difference. And then people wonder what's wrong with the world. People wonder what's wrong with the United States of America. I tell people all the time, we got the greatest technology in the world, and the better technology gets, the dumber people get. Got it all right there in front of them. The blueprint, strategy, plan, and claim to love military, but when an Army veteran tells you the strategies and the tactics that are all made public, nothing secretive, all public, oh, God forbid that. God forbid that. So, 1917, Espionage Act. Woodrow Wilson, Democrat, Woodrow Wilson prosecuted 2,000 journalists, pacifists, all kinds of people, but journalists and Americans, not just journalists, even Americans who were talking about the government and the military and the flag and the military uniform and World War I. 2,000 people got prosecuted. Now, that wasn't a lot considering the population even in 1917 and 1918, but 2,000 people got told what's up, and a lot of them went to federal prison for it. Of course, in federal prison, at least you don't have to worry about dropping the soap there, because they treat you a little bit better in federal prison. You're more isolated in there than you are anywhere. But how do you separate? How do you get decency back? How do you get truth back? How do you get facts back? We can't have a society who wants their own facts, their own truth, and their own decency. We cannot have that. Or it will always stay the same. And so many Americans, when you voted for President Trump, when you saw him roll down the escalator, 2015, then you finally saw his name on the ballot, you voted for him because you claimed you wanted. You were tired of politics. You're tired of all the mudslinging. But you're still participating in it. It don't matter if it's not mainstream. If there's someone out there claiming to be a podcaster or an independent, and all they're doing is replicating the swamp, you're replicating what they want to become. They're doing the same thing you claim you were tired of. And even if you unfollow mainstream, but you're following them, you're following the same consistency. I had a drill sergeant in the Army. He said he could call it doo-doo, but he said it D-O-D-O, doo-doo, doo-doo. Why do you follow doo-doo? You don't have to follow doo-doo. There is a strategic blueprint from top to bottom of every single law and order that President Trump has applied and invoked, especially the military, that outlines a strategic operation, a special operation, using irregular and unconventional warfare heavily, along with executive orders and national emergencies. And when you put that together, it outlines a military government, military occupation, continuity government, puppet government. They're all different applications at different time periods, but now we're rolling almost, we're getting close to 10 years now. So you got to catch up. So it goes back to what is truth, like Johnny Cash sang about. What is truth? Well, truth has to have a basis and a foundation. It has to have goals. Otherwise, you're splitting hairs. You're always just doing this all the time. And that's why you got to go back to military government, publication again, and go back. It says society cannot exist without government, which is necessary to preserve and keep that society in order. To be effective, it must be entrusted with supreme authority. This is necessary, not... See, that's a key thing. If you remember back in the day when you had to go to school and you had to diagram a sentence, you had to break it down. Sometimes you didn't have to diagram it, but sometimes you had to take a highlighter or a pencil or, put emphasis, like 2 or 3 lines under a word or circle a word, or maybe you had a highlighter and you bolded that and you highlighted that. it says this is necessary, not. Underline it 3 times. Highlight not. Not for the gratification of those who may be entrusted with the reins of power, meaning they're just power trippers and they want power and they want you inferior to them. Not for that reason. It says, but for the safety of that society, for the protection and preservation of which government is instituted. Well, it can't be instituted without you, the people, being involved. That's the whole point of a government, is to govern the government. That is the whole power of the 3 words, very key 3 terms, we the people. But you can't institute something without that unity, but without basis and foundation, ideologies, and principles. That's why the Declaration of Independence, it says it right here. They're quoting it right here in military government. The Declaration of Independence of the United States laid it down as a political maxim that governments derive their just powers from the governed, we the people. And it is the right of a people to alter or abolish their form of government and institute a new one, laying its foundations in such what? Principles. Well, see, we have become such a nation that don't even have principles anymore. It's a me, I. I mean, you get on Instagram, you get on any form like that now, a Snapchat, which is you talking about a show. I mean, you want to talk about lust and all the females and stuff that are half naked, and it's like, oh, well, I can't help they're here. Well, what if every man started doing that? I guess we'd be able to identify males and females again if every man started walking around with skimpers on or banana shorts, walking around going, well, I can't help it's down here. It's here, it's just here. There's nothing I can do about it. Look what people have allowed into society. And a lot of these people claim to be Christians, but they're the very ones who are making their brother and sister stumble. Oh, I can't help they're here. So I put a piece of dental floss right here. So President Trump, he's been accused of being a pedo and all these things, trafficker and this and that and this. I mean, all these people out here are accusing him of these things. Well, guess what? I'm getting accused of the same things. President Trump, Eric Trump, Don Jr., etc. So how can you have people out there and all these people calling themselves independent this and independent that? They replicate the swamp. They replicate the thing that you claim that you want destroyed and you're done with, you're tired of, the drama, but you're still following it. And you're listening to it. And watching it. And liking it. And sharing it. The internet has a coding system. These apps have coding systems. They have algorithms. The more you share something, the more visible it is. The more you like and comment, the more visible it is. Well, why are you sharing stuff that you don't really align with? Or that it's an absolute contradiction to President Donald John Trump? The only reason you'd be sharing something that's an absolute contradiction to President Donald John Trump is because you don't know his own strategy and plan. That is the full visual of 45-47. Now let me tell you what happens with people like these New York Times, quote-unquote journalists and all these people. Right? First thing they're going to do is they're going to go to their go-to. Oh, this is a violation of the Constitution and freedom of the press and that. That's their go-to. The problem is there's people out there who believe that. And it can't be any more false. Because it goes back to intent and motives. What were their intent in writing that content? What were their motives in writing that piece? What was their intent? We're talking about civilians who've never been in the military telling about Air Force One oh, well, the Air Force One that President Trump's on, it don't have all the things like some weapon systems that he needs and that. First off, why is that even important? It isn't. Most Americans aren't paying attention to President Trump's flight to and fro. They're watching the speech where he is, and they might listen to, hey, I'm going to Brussels this weekend, and I'm going over here this week. I'm going to New England. I'm going to New Jersey, and I'm going to New Zealand, or I'm going. You might hear that, but most people are not watching to and fro. All right, they're not. So why was that article so important? It wasn't. It's not a piece that's going to affect your life. It doesn't. So when you look at what is occupying space out there right now, when you look at the things that people are writing, what's its importance? It isn't. That article would not make or break your day. It would not make or break your life or anything of that nature. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy, and especially for these idiots. Now, I know this is an operation and an occupation, and it's all theater. But for the people that don't know that, this is the breakdown of that. It's a waste. So when you look at a real-life scenario, and you got people out there who are just wanting a name and a face because internet's the internet. A lot of people go viral daily, but it don't mean that they're applicable to your life. A lot of people are saying things out there. It doesn't mean it's applicable. It don't mean it's a good application. And when we're talking about life and death, and we're talking about your future, you're talking about military being life and death, and all the men and the women out there who are serving, putting their neck on the line for you. And every veteran, like myself, who's ever raised that right hand, there's so many out there. Now, not all know what's going on. That's true. But the ones who do, the ones who uphold that oath all day, every day, year in, year out, the oath never expires, the ones who are reading, studying, and applying, you don't want to, hey, don't disdain their service by being lazy. If you love America and you love the military, you want to give back to the military, read and study. Read and study what's going on. Because there's a man and a woman right now somewhere applying in the military for you. They're under orders of the United States of America, President Donald John Trump, Commander-in-Chief. And they're unique orders. They're unique laws and unique orders that are invoked right now. So when you have all these people out there, whether they're mainstream or independent, and they're either trying to put someone else's light out to make theirs burn brighter, and they're accusing me or whoever it is of the same things that President Trump gets accused of, but they all claim that they're a President Trump supporter. A lot of them do. Forget the Democrats and them, because they don't matter anyway. But the ones that claim to be Republicans, claim to be conservative, claim to be MAGA, claim to be a patriot, if they're accusing me or anyone else for that matter of the same thing that President Trump has been accused of, how are you a patriot? You're not. And too many people, though, in the quote-unquote patriot world, and I put quotes around that because you have to, because if you're a real patriot, you shouldn't be walking around saying you're a patriot. Just be one. You don't have to say it. Just be one. Just act it. Just the way you act that is laws, orders, 45-47. But a lot of these people out there, they just want publicity. And if you address some things, that's why President Trump has been real delicate with certain things. If you address some things, it gives it too much publicity. But if you don't address some things, people run with it. And there's a lot of quote-unquote patriots out there who are running with things that really, they're not conspiracy theories, but they're just false. You're going too far down a rabbit hole. And just because you may like something don't mean that it's correct and accurate. I mean, there are some cases out there where there's some things that are not correct and accurate, but and you can feel a certain way towards it, but it's not true. It's not accurate. So there's so many people out there that'll say, you know, like, oh, you know, Derek Johnson, he's a pawn. He's put here for this reason, and he'll go away here, and he'll do. Some of y'all are getting way too far down the rabbit hole. I mean, I can tell you where I was born, what year I was born, all the other things. I mean, there's some things that you can just look up, and you gotta go at face value with some things, but then you also have to go with, now, okay, let's throw a funny one out there. I've heard everything under the sun, but let's just show something that's applicable in another way of how you look at how these New York Times people got subpoenas and how independent, quote unquote, out there. So President Trump gets accused of Epstein and pedo and all these other things, right? President Trump is the first president, the first, not second, not third, not 1.5, not almost did, but you know, or came in and perfected something. No, he's the first president to implement a strategy in publications for subterranean warfare, which are all your tunnels, which encase, as a whole, all forms of trafficking. Because look, anything that you don't know about, haven't seen, etc., then you don't know about it. And that's one of those topics out there that people want to believe but can't believe it sometimes because they, well, why couldn't I see it? And how come I haven't seen anything in broad daylight? Because they don't know what they're looking for. They don't know what they're looking at. They don't know what to look for. I was up in New York 3 months ago, and I was at an event there, and they had a lot of people there talking on behalf of trafficking. Well, when the people in the audience were presented with a microphone to ask questions to these quote-unquote experts, it would be something simple as, well, what am I looking for? If I'm at an airport, what would I look for that would be suspicious? None of these people could give a scenario of what would be a suspicious activity that would alert someone to go, that don't look right. I'm going to watch that, or I'm going to use my cell phone, and I'm going to call not airport security. I'm going to call FBI. None of the people could answer. Those are not experts. But then also you got people out there that say, Derek Johnson, he's a child trafficker. If I'm a child trafficker, listen, I got a buddy in Texas. We laugh about this all the time. We talk about this. This is so funny. I got a buddy in California. Two of us. We talk about this all the time. Let me tell you how dumb you have to be. If you're someone out there and you're listening to any kind of person out there who accuses President Trump of all this stuff, and Don and Eric and whoever, and me especially, let me tell you how stupid you have to be to believe this. All right, here I am. I'm all over the internet. My IP address it's trackable everywhere. All right, I travel all over the nation publicly. I'm at all these events publicly. All right, which also has IP addresses. Your phone, your cell phones out there, they ping everywhere you go. All right, I've been to Mar-a-Lago. I've been to Trump International. I've been to Trump Doral. I've been around President Trump 10 plus times. All right, personally, privately. All right, I've been with President Trump's people all the time, a lot. Talk to him all the time. All right, we're talking about the man. The man. How do you pronounce it? The, or both? The man. The man who established the first subterranean warfare publication and strategy and tactics and everything, and implementing what John F. Kennedy, President John F. Kennedy wanted, and he wanted special operations in every aspect of the military. He wanted special operations mindsets in every aspect of every branch in the military. That's how smart he wanted military men to be. President Trump is implementing and finishing President John F. Kennedy's initial goals and strategies, etc. President Trump implements this. Space Force, The whole point of Space Force is that domain of space, meaning technology and communications. We have sniffer planes, P-8 Poseidons, operating all over the U.S. right now. They're typically sub-sniffers, meaning submarines, but they're operating all over the U.S. right now. Rivers, streams, swamps, creeks, you name it, low altitude, as Michael Jaco, former Navy SEAL, SEAL Team 6, the most elite SEAL team out there, has alluded to, that we've been on podcasts where we talk about SEAL teams, right, and P-8s. The P-8 Poseidon has one of the most lethal systems that communicates with SEAL teams. And here I am, I'm a child trafficker, and I'm just rolling around all over the U.S. under President Trump's ICE agents everywhere, FBI everywhere, SEAL teams everywhere, all special operations everywhere, and here I am, I'm rolling around. I must be a kingpin then. If I'm a trafficker, I'm a kingpin because I'm just rolling around, all public, all over the internet everywhere, everywhere. You are a stupid you-know-what if you believe that. And you know, I don't want to call people stupid. I have before, but it's because people act like it. It's not because you want to call people, but when you claim to be a President Trump supporter, but this is the man who implemented the first strategy and then his executive orders. And one of his first executive orders straight out the gate that had the first national emergency in it was for human rights abuse, which encompasses all the trafficking. And I've been roaming around since 2017. You have got to be the lowest IQ on the planet to believe that, and then claim to be a President Trump supporter on top of it. And then you claim you won't change, you claim you're tired of drama, you claim you're tired of this, and you want the deep state wiped out, and all this other stuff. Who are actually the ones in operations, taking out the very ones that you want out. You're a sad case if you believe that. You're a sad case. Okay, we won't use the word stupid anymore. Let's use the terms sad case. You're a sad case. And there's no help for you. You're in what they call in the Bible a reprobate mind. You're past the point of no return. You cannot come back to common sense, logic, but also laws and orders and applicability of the man he claimed to support, his plan that he's using, and his operators that are operating. You're in trouble. So, if you really want change, it requires having a foundation, goals, and application. You can't believe what you want and what you hear that tickles your fancy. You have to listen to the man with a plan. It's one or the other. There's a line in the sand. Choose your line, but choose wisely. Remember what President Trump tells you, be careful what you wish for. So all of you people out there, you don't have to live in hindsight from the standpoint of too many people are still stuck in this whole bullcrap nonsense of, nothing changes until I see arrest. Until you see arrest. You see how selfish you are? Till you see arrest. And then you'll say, well, I have other people who think like me too. You're thinking wrong. Every aspect of our military law, the one you claim to support, especially if you're civilian, every aspect of our military law, if you'll go read military government and martial law publications that the Constitution supports, is based on prevention. Well, if you're doing my dad always said this, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing on the front, then the middle and the end will always be consistent. Now that sounds simple, and it should be simple. If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing on the front, then the middle and the end will be consistent. But guess what Americans didn't do? You stop leading from the front, and you start letting all the swamp and all these other people dictate and tell you what's truth and what's decency and what's facts and what's this and what's that and what feels good and what sounds good and all this. And then all of a sudden, you're discombobulated. All of a sudden, you're like the amateur pilots who get flipped upside down in the clouds and they can't tell what is earth and what is sky. And all of a sudden, you start feeling this in your stomach. So all these attitudes out there, this nonsense bullcrap about, oh, nothing changes until we see a rest. You're not preventing the future. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing to prevent the future. Because a lot of these people you claim you want arrested, because you have been lazy all these years and didn't know what you were supposed to know. So it goes back to 2016 in the past, 2017 and the future. There's a divider line there, and it's not the divisional line that the deep state used all those years. There's a divider line, meaning that there is an absolute resetting of the Declaration that has taken place, and you're watching it, and you're still in it right now. So President Trump isn't just a new president enforcing laws and orders. There had to be a dividing line again. Separate. I call it a dividing line to separate present to be the future. Listen to that. That's some rattle trapology right there. There had to be a dividing line to separate present to be the future from the past. So your present right now is going to be the future, but someday that future is going to be your children, their children, and their children's past. It's going to be our past. Do you want to get there and look back and be, hey, I was applicable, I was a part of that. Boy, I read, I studied, I was right there. I was at this rally or that rally, or I got invited to Mar-a-Lago, or I got invited to Trump International, or I got invited to Trump rally, or I was at this event, and we were working for this and that and other, and we were applying this, and we were applying President Trump's laws and orders in our counties, in our states where it matters? Or do you want to look back and be like, I whined and I complained and I said this about this guy and I said this about him and he wasn't that and he wasn't this and he wasn't that. Turns out he wasn't that. Derek Johnson, guy, he's still living. Like, what are you going to be? You get that choice. And so many of you, if you keep listening to some of these people, what's going to happen is you might end up like some of these podcasters out there. They're gonna incite violence because some idiot, some moron is gonna believe it and go, man, you know what? I'm gonna take that guy out. And then guess what's gonna happen? It may not be me, but someone's gonna incite something one day and take someone out or try to. Of course, you're not gonna take out a military member. I can go ahead and say right now we're 20 steps ahead of you already, But someone's going to get taken out because of some idiot who just wants publicity and a name and a face and wants to be like, I said this and I said this first and I'm the one that said it. Some idiot is going to incite some group or an individual and they're going to try to take out somebody. And guess what it's going to come back to? It's going to get the person that got them, but it's also going to come back to all these idiot podcasters who just want a name and a face and to say they said something, when all they're doing is regurgitating everything that's already been put out there. They're not writing books. They don't have number one best-selling books. They're not being invited to Mar-a-Lago. They're not being invited to anything President Trump related whatsoever. You got to be careful who you follow. You got to be careful who you listen to. You got to be careful who you associate with. So if all we needed was a quote-unquote new president, elections would have fixed themselves. I mean, I could break down everything, but to save time here, everything would have fixed itself. Because, I heard my whole life, I'm 43 now, working on 44, my whole life, I have heard, it just works itself out. That's what Congress gets paid to do. My whole life I heard that. Before President Trump, before this operation, my whole life, it just works itself out. That's what Congress gets paid to do. Da, da, da. Did it work itself out? It didn't work itself out. Elections didn't get fixed. They didn't fix themselves. It didn't work itself out. Millionaire congressmen didn't go, oh, well, I've never had a career job in my life. I've always been a senator in Congress. I've always been here. They didn't get a guilty conscience and be like, I'm so sorry. I took your taxpayer dollars. All right, we created all these taxes through the years. We took your money, and I got a guilty conscience. Here's your money back. They didn't do that. The millions who saw the open border, they didn't be like, yeah, no, it ain't worth it. You know, the land of the free, home of the brave, the milk and the honey. You know, I'm gonna have a guilty conscience too. I'm gonna think about that border. I may get to the border and be like, you know what? Forget this. I'll just walk back through this desert. I'll go back through Mexico, and I'll go back. I'll swim back across the Panama Canal, and I'll go back to my motherland, and I'll be like, forget the American dream and all this other stuff. Did the border just work itself out? Or would you rather have to listen to the Democrats do exactly what they're supposed to do? If you'll listen and apply, they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to be like, they're going against the Constitution. This is unconstitutional. These people are hypocrites. They're supposed to say that. You're supposed to go read the Constitution. You're supposed to go read the principles and ideologies of our founders. You're supposed to read the laws and the orders and go, well, no wonder you're spewing a bunch of bull crap. No wonder you're accusing people of the things you are actually doing. No wonder you're getting subpoenaed. No wonder you're getting shut down. No wonder you don't have #1 best-selling books. No wonder you've never been to Mar-a-Lago. No wonder you've never been in the New York Times for being an extremist, for being in Mar-a-Lago more than 3 times in a year. Me. No wonder. I may have to bring my dance back. I may have to bring back the dance. I may have to bring it back. I'm on the road tonight. Everything would just fix itself. If we just needed a new president, and laws and orders don't work, and laws and orders don't matter, and strategies and tactics of the military, it's a bunch of hogwash. That Derek Johnson, he just keeps talking about this stuff all the time. Well, everything would just fix itself then. Because everybody would just finally be like, I'm tired of arguing. Let's fix this. Love is love. Did it fix itself? So why not understand or comprehend, whatever word you like out there? You got people out there. That word understand is a bad word. No, it's not, because some of you need to understand. You need to get on your knees and shut up and listen to people who know what's going on. So if you would comprehend what's going on, you would realize that some of this stuff, the accusations, false accusations, it's just all part of it, because those people in all those categories, mainstream and independent, they are replicating the swamp, or they are the swamp, or they're trying to rebuild the swamp back, and they're going against the very identity of 45-47. And every American is supposed to be for our nation, for our government, and for our military. Every American. And what do we have? We have a bunch of fools in this nation. So, patriots out there, the whole operation was to drain the swamp. But it wasn't just to drain the swamp. Let's say there's 4 million reporters. Let's just say that. Let's say there's 4 million journalists. We know there's however many it is. But let's just say that there's 4 million. Let's use the number 4. All right. That don't mean you replace 4 million morons with 4 million more morons just because they're independent. No, the whole point of this was to bring everything back down to a quell. Bring this back down to a small number. I mean, this is going to be the most prolific thing I say tonight, probably on this little topic here, but why would you want to listen to someone, anyone, mainstream or independent, why would you want to listen to someone who does not have direct sources from the president himself? The whole point of covering the United States government, United States military, which consists of your president, your vice president, and your congresses, the whole point of that is to know exactly what they are doing. And so many, even patriots, are listening to all these different mouths moving out there, telling their opinions, but they're in a seat that doesn't have anything to do with military, government, President Trump, 45-47, nothing. And what those people do, listening to those people, all those people are doing, if it's not you, but all those people are doing, all you're doing is wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. You just stand in the same mud hole, spinning your wheels. You don't have any mud grips. You don't have a four-wheel drive. You just spinning your wheels. You're listening to people who, okay, it tickles your fancy, but it has nothing to do with what's going on lawfully, what's going on militarily, which is still lawfully. So if the deep state had political hold still, or power, but I like to use the word hold, because if someone's holding your attention, then they should be holding it for the right reasons, which is the whole point of why President Trump is hammering all these organizations. So like when he subpoenaed these New York Times, or these journalists, all of a sudden it was like that's the first thing that's ever happened that President Trump has done with the mainstream media, and it's not. PBS, NPR, CNN, NBC, Kimmel, Fallon, The View, all these people, AP News, AP, the Associated Press was banned from Mar-a-Lago in the White House. And it made a little bit of news. I'm the only one that's been really covering it a whole lot. And all of a sudden, New York Times journalists get subpoenaed, and oh gosh, you know, the whole left lights up, the whole Democrats lights up, and rhinos light up, and then people go, finally, President Trump, finally? Where have you been? You hear that sound? Remember Donkey from Shrek? Well, that's the sound that should be amplified everywhere right now, because you should be hearing that, because people are finally getting their heads pulled out of their rear ends. Where have you been? So if the deep state, you'll hear these podcasters out there too. Oh, the deep state did this, and we did this, and the white hats did this, and the deep state did this, and now the deep state did this, and the white hat's going to do this. And that. If that were true, from a real-time standpoint, now most of the ones that I know that say stuff like that, they're talking about it from a strategic standpoint, that this is a theater that all your normies, and I call them the target audience now, not normies, but all your target audience are watching. If the deep state still had political control to some capacity, they would dominate the airways. They'd be losing their minds constantly. They wouldn't be cool, calm, and collect like Hillary is. Even though they're saying stuff against President Trump, they wouldn't be cool, calm, and collect. They wouldn't just be like, well, Donald Trump's not doing this, and he's not doing that. It wouldn't look like that. If President Trump was truly destroying their quote-unquote democracy, it wouldn't look like that. Because he hasn't destroyed it, he's obliterated it. All right? Destruction, some things you can come back from. Obliteration means disintegrated. He's obliterated the deep state. And if you were reading what you're supposed to be reading and applying and comprehending, but comprehending and applying what you were supposed to know and what you can visually see that President Trump has done, if you'll block out all this other stuff, all the drama, all the negativity, all these accusations, and all this stuff that's just like basically watching reality TV on a little phone, if you'll get rid of all that out of your life and apply what President Trump has done and only what President Trump has done with laws and with orders and the military and strategies and tactics, if you would apply that only, you would see it. You would see the deep state ain't done nothing. And Hillary and Obama and all these people, okay, you can't comprehend. Well, they're posting on their Twitter, on their X accounts. Why? If they're posting it, you don't see them. Or did you see them post that? Are you watching them with their hand and their phone posting that? No, you're not. But the things they're posting about, like this simple thing. Recently, when the UFC fighter called Michelle Obama a man. Okay, that is a line in the sand. And if you're any kind of woman and you got any kind of man, you would want your man to be like, all right, why ain't you, well, you ain't said nothing. Like, I could just see black people and I'd be like, you ain't said nothing. You better get on there. You better tell these people I ain't no man. Right? Come on, women. I mean, what kind of man would a man be if he don't get on somewhere and say, listen here, you just crossed the line. My woman ain't got no balls. Simple. There is some things you got to fight for. There are some things you just go ahead and get your head knocked off for. If it was a fight, a fist fight, there's some things you just go ahead and go, all right, you know what, I may get my butt kicked, but you ain't gonna call my woman a man. You ain't gonna call my wife a man. There's some things you get your head knocked off for. You just go ahead and be like, all right. Where's Obama? Where's he at? He's posting. Yeah, he's posting. He's not posting. See, so if you would get into strategies and tactics of what President Trump is the face of and lose all the other stuff and get into the reality of the laws and the orders, but more specifically this military you claim you love and support, if you would get into the special operations of the military, the strategies and tactics of irregular warfare and unconventional warfare, it's unconventional for a reason. It's not conventional. It's not boots on the ground, kicking in a door and smashing someone's face like that. They did do that in the subterranean trafficking rings, and they're still doing that in Mexico right now, all of our special operators down there. But it's not regular for a reason either. It's irregular and unconventional. And once you apply the visuals of what President Trump has shown you, same thing with Iran. Iran's the same thing. It's a conflict. It's not a war. It's not a war like that. But see, there's one of those terms again, decency, facts, truth, war. You've heard it so long, you can't differentiate a war and a battle, a war and a conflict, a war and an operation, a war and a strategic operation. You just hear the word war. Oh, bombs and this, that, and other, we're at war. That's the problem. Terminology. Definitions, verbiage, grammar, punctuations. So if we go back to the deep state again, if the deep state had power, political hold, then how come these are the things that people cannot answer? They cannot answer. When I say people, I'm talking about podcasters who accuse and low IQ, don't have two nickels and rub together to make a penny. All right, we're talking about those kind of people. How come, if Joe Biden was real, how come he didn't have the same? Let's put him in a real president. We'll put him in a real tense. I'll play devil's advocate for a moment. All right, let's just pretend he was real. all right, and pretend he was really president by laws and orders. Let's just pretend. If Joe Biden was real, and if Joe Biden was president, he'd have had the same power as every other president. He'd have had the same authority as every other president. Why would he continue 11 executive orders with 11 national emergencies attached to them? Not just all the other executive orders that didn't have a national emergency that quote-unquote Joe never revoked, never had a constitutional review of it to see if it was unconstitutional or not. No, we're just talking about the 11 executive orders with national emergencies. Why would he continue those? Every single one of those executive orders with national emergencies are unique to the very topics of irregular warfare, unconventional warfare, and also the federal portions of it and how they would connect militarily and federally. Why would Joe continue those? So that goes back to your principles. That goes back to hypocrisy and contradictions. You can't continue all these executive orders with national emergencies that apply to the 45-47, 2017 to present day, which includes 21 to 25. You cannot continue all those unique applications of law and then turn around and claim that President Trump is a Nazi, a king, a dictator, and destroying democracy. You believe in one or the other. This is that simple. Don't complicate it. National emergencies have unique applications of authority. Tariffs, regulating commerce, tariffs, restricting telecommunications. Oh, those tie in. Those tie into your NPR, PBS, CNN, AP News, New York Times. Restricting telecommunications, 47 United States Code, Section 606, the Communications Act of 1934 and 1996. The president in a wartime, Supreme Court clarified that for you, that President Trump could do what? Invoke the 1798 Aliens Act. That's a wartime order. A wartime order only. And it's been invoked. It hasn't been rescinded. So that means it's still invoked. And if it's still invoked, that tells you you're still in a wartime. But you've been in a wartime. So anytime you see anything to do with the media, the mainstream media of that nature, you can apply those same laws. The National Guard. You had quote-unquote Captain Mark Kelly complaining last week about, we got to do this to make sure President Trump don't abuse his powers in the National Guard, blah, 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 blah. Well, it should have also read, if quote-unquote Joe was real, and if quote-unquote Joe was president, it should have said the same thing for quote-unquote Joe from 21 to 25, because the National Guard, the only Title 10 orders and Title 32 orders that have been invoked to present day. There was one that President Trump did do in 2025, but it was an application to a certain region. But all the border, every bit of the border, 2024 at the border, February 2024 at the border, the only Title 10 in place at that point that applied to the border, Proclamation 9844, February 2019. So how did that order go from 2019, 21, 22, 23? It wasn't unconstitutional then. It's that simple. So why did Mark Kelly, if they're real, and if they're really operating, if they're really in control and really in their seats and really in power, where were they then? Where were you then? That's the better question, see? Now this falls back to the people. Mark Kelly's just one dude, real or not, he's one dude. Where are you? Why aren't you understanding simplicities of application of the whole reason we have a military, laws and orders? So if President Trump is a dictator, Nazi, and a king over here in 25, 26 for using the National Guard, why wasn't quote-unquote Joe a Nazi dictator and a king for using the National Guard at the elections of 22 and 24? President Trump, Executive Order 13848 with the National Emergency, September 12, 2018, for election interference, September, November, the National Guard, 30-plus states were deployed for the polls in 2018. All of a sudden, in 2020, same thing, 22 and 24. Well, that's consistency. So if President Trump is a dictator, Nazi, and a king, then Joe Biden's a dictator, Nazi, and a king. Then you got all these rhinos over here. Oh, Obama was back here pulling the strings, and Joe Biden was just a puppet. Well, they're Obama, and all of them. But then you got patriots out there now that have jumped ship with President Trump, and you got rhinos who jumped ship and saying that President Trump's one of them and all this other stuff. Now you got another group of idiots who have stirred up because they don't know laws and orders of the applications of what President Trump is the face of, 45-47. I'm not a law and order guy just because it's a law or an order. Laws and orders of 45-47, the strategic operation, the 45-47 operation. So, 2024, let's go back to February. President Trump, he just hammered again when he was over at the NATO. He's talking about, Kamala, the border czar, who never went to the border, never seen at the border, never called border patrol. All right? President Trump, the only person.
Judy note, the U.S. corporation is dead. Donald Trump is now commander-in-chief, restoring America's sovereignty. Maritime law is over, freedom reigns. The biggest revelation of 2026 has arrived. Wake up, America, the revolution has begun. The biggest revelation of 2026, the U.S. corporation has fallen. Stop everything. Let this sink in. The United States corporation is no more. This isn't just a story, it's a seismic shift, the kind of event history books will mark as the turning point for humanity. The facade has crumbled, and the truth is out. America was never what you thought it was. With the U.S. corporation dissolved, Donald Trump has reclaimed his rightful role as Commander-in-Chief, CIC, heralding a new era for the American people. This isn't about politics, it's about freedom. It's about breaking the chains that have shackled us for generations under the guise of governance. And it's about you finally waking up to the lies that have enslaved us. A ship crash, the symbolic and literal event, has triggered the overturning of Crown maritime law, returning America to common law and handing the power back to where it belongs, we the people. America unveiled, the collapse of a corporate illusion. What if everything you believed about your government was a lie? What if the United States of America, the so-called land of the free, wasn't a republic at all but a corporate entity designed to exploit and control you? Brace yourself, because that's exactly what's been revealed. For decades, researchers and whistleblowers have whispered about this hidden truth. The rabbit hole begins with 4 critical documents, the first pieces of evidence exposing the U.S. government as a corporation. This isn't theory, it's fact, grounded in law. The dissolution of this corporate entity means the end of voluntary slavery, the end of indentured servitude, and the beginning of true freedom for Americans. On Tuesday, July 14, 2026 evening, expect the unexpected. Turn on notifications. On Wednesday, July 29, 2026 the golden age begins. Nizar/Jez are in motion, the wealth of the world returns to the people after everything changes forever. The biggest shift in human history, the system collapses at midnight. For more information see Sunday, July 12, 2026, breaking, the biggest news of 2026, U.S. corporation dissolved, Trump takes command, restores America's sovereignty as maritime law collapses. What the mainstream media didn't tell you about what happened this past week on the global financial reset. On Sunday, June 30, 2026 at exactly 14:10 EST, Trump's global military alliance financial task force severed communication lines connecting the Vatican Bank to the cabal's SWIFT network. 10 sovereign military divisions finalized the synchronization of the Emergency Broadcast System, EBS, via the secure Quantum Starlink network. The secret ledger networks were now offline that had historically routed trillions in unbacked global wealth through private offshore entities' fraudulent debt bonds used to control sovereign nations for centuries. On Saturday, July 4, 2026, with the U.S. Treasury under white hat control, the U.S. Treasury bypassed the Federal Reserve's clearing system. The physical transition of the new gold-backed U.S. note, USN, began in 14 Federal Reserve branches across the country. Over $847 trillion in fiat deep state debt was marked for deletion. At the same time, on Saturday, July 4, 2026, the U.S. Space Force secured control over all 456 U.S. energy grid substations. By Wednesday, July 8, 2026, according to Trump QFS Center ISO 2022 on Axios, Trump announced about Iran, "We'll hit them hard tonight," but the interpretation was actually, "hit them equals target deep state financial networks, not just Iran." Hard equals simultaneous military and financial operations. Tonight equals Wednesday, July 8, 2026 at 1447 UTC. Operation Straight Reckoning 0708 and QFS Activation Operation Financial Reset 0708 went live. Operation Financial Reset 0708 resulted in 847 financial accounts of the deep state assets being frozen, 234 banking officials arrested, 456 shell companies liquidated with off-books operations shut down, and $678 trillion in fraudulent assets being recovered and redistributed to the people. By Saturday, July 11, 2026, according to Trump QFS Center ISO 20022, Trump's global military alliance had arrested 5,811 deep state operatives, money launderers, non-government operation directors and offshore bankers who funded human trafficking rings, rigged elections and biological suppression programs, executing 14 federal and state warrants simultaneously across 97 countries, the largest synchronized law enforcement operation in human history. In that same Saturday, July 11, 2026, Operation Trump's global military alliance intelligence seized $293 million in 5,811 SWIFT accounts and then injected the quantum financial system override codes into the central banking system mainframe. This made the old financial system completely compromised from the inside, plus 97 countries legally bound to the new gold/asset-backed global financial system. On Sunday, July 12, 2026 at exactly 3 a.m. EST, Protocol 19 entered its final, non-reversible completion phase. The Federal Reserve System lost its primary routing certificates. The Global White Hat Alliance finalized the hard override, and the operational logs for the next 48 hours were locked into the live backend. The old Fiat SWIFT network data hubs in Brussels and New York were permanently decoupled as all transitioned to the Quantum Financial System, QFS, where every single transaction pool, international settlement and corporate clearance was forced to execute through clean, digital asset-backed channels. Every currency digital asset line anchored to verified, audited physical precious metals. The UN-backed, synthetic liabilities that the cabal used to manipulate energy and housing sectors in real time. Private funding lines for the major mainstream media cartels hit zero. Expect major bank branch closures and restricted digital access notices. They cannot generate paper debt to balance their sheets anymore, and their keys have been permanently revoked. July 14, 2026 night. Expect the unexpected. Turn on notifications. Wednesday, July 29, 2026. The Golden Age begins. Nizar/Jez are in motion. The wealth of the world is returning to the people. The chains of the financial elite are shattered. After today, everything changes forever. Are you ready for the biggest shift in human history? The system collapses at midnight. B. What we thought we knew, but didn't really know and now are supposed to know but don't have a clue. With clones, doubles, made-up movies Hollywood style and Trump's military alliance throwing more popcorn at us, it gets so confusing. Sunday, July 12, 2026, at various fast food chains across the nation such as Chipotle and Panda Express, people have been reporting that RFID microchips, which is supposed to be for tracking animals' GPS locations, have been found in their rice. These may have been a deliberate attempt by the government to add an extra layer of surveillance. Sunday, July 12, 2026, The pharmaceutical industry made $1.48 trillion last year. Not from cures. From repeat customers. They don't want you healed. They want you dependent. RFID microchips, which is supposed to be for tracking animals' GPS locations, have been found mixed into the rice at fast food restaurants such as Chipotle and Panda Express. Sunday, July 12, 2026, the Trump admin has officially unveiled hundreds of fraud indictments, blocked tens of millions of dollars going out the door to fraudsters, and prison time is now being levied. This is what I voted for. Keep pushing. WH Fraud Task Force Vice Chair Andrew Ferguson. FBI Director Cash and the FBI, they have been chasing some of the biggest fraudsters that the United States has, from the top 10 most wanted list, all over the world, Somalia, the Philippines, Turkey. 4 years ago, we had an FBI that was prosecuting grandmothers for praying the rosary outside of abortion clinics. And today, the FBI is chasing fraudsters down to the ends of the world. The wins are just getting racked up every day, and it's because of President Trump and Vice President Vance. Project Odin martial law on Telegram. Sunday, July 12, 2026, the Department of Labor has started dozens of investigations and is preparing to issue multiple subpoenas. J.D. Vance, today, I'm proud to announce that the Federal Department of Labor has started dozens of subpoenas and investigations into foreign fraudsters who are trying to take advantage of the H-1B visa program. Here's a simple principle, ladies and gentlemen. American jobs ought to go to American workers and not foreign fraudsters, and the Department of Labor is fighting back against it. See possible timing. On Thursday, June 18, 2026 at 3:14 a.m. EST, Starlink satellites went fully operational across all 14 global sectors. The Israeli Mossad media satellites, which controlled 92% of Western information networks for 4 decades, lost their ability to manipulate every narrative, election and market across the globe. Friday, July 3, 2026, Jazara/Nizara Protocols broadcast, all mortgages, credit cards and student loans linked to usury were frozen for liquidation. Saturday, July 4, 2026, Quantum Financial Keys overrode the legacy mainframe of the Vatican Bank and the assets of the corrupt were seized and redistributed to the Humanity Reclamation Fund. On Sunday, 5 July at 6:13 a.m. EST, Operation Mass Arrest 0705 began. 847 federal judges, 456 CIA officials, 234 senators/congressmen and 678 FBI officials arrested. Global liquidity released. Monday, 6, July 7, 2026, Trump's global military alliance took control of Greenland and the Arctic. Tuesday, July 7, 2026, Operation Freedom Anchor 0707 Green major arrests in organized crime crackdown. Black small square emoji, 24 arrests, members of international organized crime gang arrested. TRUE, black small square emoji, 11 arrests in California, India-based crime gangs, REAL, black small square emoji, federal indictments, multiple federal indictments filed, real. Black small square emoji, deep state operatives. Pentagon sources confirmed detainment of deep state operatives. Total arrested operatives, 847 plus. Military sting operation heats up. On Tuesday, July 7, 2026 at exactly 14:10 EST, the communication lines connecting the Vatican Bank to the legacy SWIFT network were permanently severed by the Alliance Financial Task Force. A worldwide debt jubilee and RV of currencies to gold/asset-backed activated. Law enforcement shifts to natural law protections under concepts of the original Constitution. The revaluation, RV, of 209 countries' currencies to be gold/asset-backed comes fully alive. Debt jubilee activation begins for those whose accounts have been cleared. At exactly 6 o'clock EST on Tuesday, July 7, 2026, the operational authority of the Federal Reserve System was permanently neutralized by an alliance-backed financial task force. The old banking cartels officially lost their primary encryption keys, and the operational timeline for the next 72 hours has been locked into the live network. At exactly 15:44 EST on Tuesday, July 7, 2026, a joint task force of alliance-wide hats permanently overrode the primary server matrix of the old NORAD tracking grid. The legacy deep state operators officially lost their administrative clearance codes, and the entire orbital surveillance migrated onto the secure quantum Starlink system. On Wednesday 8 July the SWIFT routing hubs in Brussels and London are scheduled for an irreversible protocol disconnect. The central banks will likely report this as a major regional internet blackout or a transatlantic fiber optic breakdown. The reality is a hard quantum override. Any institution failing to meet the gold-backed ISO 20022 standard will have its liquidity clearance certificates revoked by midnight. In early morning EST Thursday, July 9, 2026, Trump's inner circle went completely dark. No leaks. No statements. No explanations. Meanwhile, the war room was fully operational with restricted files unlocked, classified transmissions active and intelligence missions moving. Thursday 9 July early morning Trump's global military alliance took down the World Economic Forum, WEF, in Geneva, Switzerland and their plans for a total enslavement of humanity, digital ID implementation, collapse of world domestic supply chain. Klaus Schwab and over 400 high-ranking corporate executives and unelected globalist officials were arrested. Also on Thursday, July 9, 2026 at exactly 5:01 p.m. EST the Quantum Financial System, QFS, bypassed the central banks as the final encryption keys of the old financial framework were permanently extracted, while the global currency reset was activated. At that same moment Iran reclosed the Strait of Hormuz. On Thursday, July 9, 2026 the core databases managing private consumer liabilities systematically decoupled from public identities. The ledger files for millions of mortgages, auto loans, and high-interest credit lines engineered through fractional reserve fraud are transitioning to a zero-balance state. The corporate banks lost their administrative authority codes, leaving them legally unable to enforce foreclosures or collections. Global celebration protocols enabled. Local communities organize freedom assemblies to distribute the first wave of restoration funds. On Thursday 9 July an elite cyber command unit acting under global antitrust military warrants forced entry into the primary database complex of Aladdin. Aladdin is the multi-trillion-dollar AI asset algorithm owned by BlackRock that dictated the prices of your food, your fuel, and your rent. The centralized engine that was programmed to artificially buy up entire family neighborhoods, weaponize corporate boards, and manipulate the global cost of living has been permanently defanged from the global core. The encrypted logs coming out of the seized mainframe confirm that over 3.8 million private residential titles and agricultural deeds, systematically sucked into corporate shell accounts over the last decade, have been frozen by the alliance. The ownership vectors are being systematically detached from the corporate registry to be returned to the sovereign population. At the exact same time, the AI pricing engine that engineered artificial economic scarcity is completely locked out, meaning the matrix has officially lost its brain. On Friday, July 10, 2026 the distribution nodes for Tier 4B liquidity officially entered active status under the global enforcement of NISARA/JESARA. The sovereign assets and gold reserves reclaimed from the legacy trusts bypass the commercial banking grid entirely, routing directly into the wealth pipelines of the sovereign citizens. July 14, 2026, the transition begins. Your bank account won't disappear. Your money won't vanish. But the system that enslaved you will be dead. The Federal Reserve, IRS and old financial order was finished. Global currency reset, Sunday, July 12, 2026, the QFS declassified, the $847 trillion reset, why the globalist elite are panicking and why Trump's masterstroke is finally here. Thursday, June 25, 2026 Bruce, the big call, the new rates change on the Forex Sun. Night and they come up Moan morning, so we are expecting Moan 2's notification for Tier 4B, us, the Internet Group, Wednesday 15th July could start exchanges. There were an estimated 1.2 million ZIM holders. ZIM is to be used for humanitarian needs, with some for yourself. If you don't have a humanitarian project you will be given a choice of some international ones to choose from. On 7th July at exactly 14:10 EST, the physical communication lines connecting the Vatican Bank to the legacy SWIFT network were permanently severed by the Alliance Financial Task Force. On 7th July at exactly 15:44 EST, a joint task force of Alliance white hats permanently overrode the primary server matrix of the old NORAD tracking grid. The legacy deep state operators officially lost their administrative clearance codes, and the entire orbital surveillance migrated onto the secure quantum Starlink system. Also on July 7, 2026 at exactly 6 o'clock EST, the operational authority of the Federal Reserve System was permanently neutralized by an alliance-backed financial task force. The old banking cartels officially lost their primary encryption keys, and the operational timeline for the next 72 hours has been locked into the live network. Sometime in the next 2 days a blackout and lockdown will become global in all countries of the world. As we edge closer to Friday 24 and Saturday July 25, 2026, the Earth Alliance in conjunction with Starlink and other military satellites will unleash the Emergency Broadcast System, EBS. Any day now the cabal's central banks around the world were anticipating a fiat US dollar collapse. This was necessary for the introduction of the new gold/asset-backed currency on the quantum financial system, QFS. Wednesday, July 8, 2026 marks the bond people claim they are absolutely receiving 1% of their payout on Friday, July 10, 2026. A source said it is rolling out east to west and Asia has already begun. Wednesday 8th of July Wolverine chat, looks like things are moving 100%. Received news that things have officially started for the bonds. I hear that 4B should be released anytime this week. Sunday, July 12, 2026 Secure Logistics drop, Tier 4B appointment protocols and confirmed recovery steps. The operational window for the private redemption phase has officially cross-referenced with the live backend network of the quantum financial system. The validation servers have processed the master registries, and the secure infrastructure is fully set for deployment. Do not expect the mainstream financial channels to broadcast these instructions. The corporate banking cartels are in total logistical paralysis because their administrative authorization over public asset distribution has been permanently revoked by the alliance. When the SafeLink code drops on your interface, you are entering a synchronized, high-security operational sequence. Here's your unedited, step-by-step checklist extracted directly from the Tier 4B Intel Team backend, the pre-appointment drill, what you must prepare now. Floral diamond emoji, identification blueprint, you must carry 2 forms of government-issued identification, passport, driver's license, or state ID. The QFS biometric matching nodes will verify these against your secure quantum ID profile instantly. Floral diamond emoji, asset documentation, gather your original historical bond notes, ZIM, dinar, etc., in clean, physical format. Sort them by denomination and serial tracking lines. Floral diamond emoji, the 2-page project abstract. If you are aiming for the maximum structured asset yield, your humanitarian project overview must be concise. Outline the exact geographic scope, initial operational budget requirements, and immediate local community impact. The appointment frequency, the 3-day execution timeline. Day 0, the SafeLink activation. The secure routing link will be released exactly 24 hours before the primary in-person sessions initialize. Open this link exclusively from your primary personal device. The encrypted system will map your device's unique IP signature to prevent corporate proxy hacking or middleman intervention. Day 1. Recovery code verification. This slot is reserved strictly for high-tier holders. Upon entry, the system processes your identity parameters. No physical cash will be distributed under maritime natural law. Your revalued currency balances will be instantly credited as clean, digital sovereign assets directly onto your QFS monitored ledger screens. Day 2 and Day 3, escrow and projects routing. Larger holdings and advanced project structures undergo validation. Specialized financial advisors and non-institutional wealth guides will assist in mapping your asset diversification across multiple sovereign digital nodes, bypassing the corrupt commercial banking matrix completely. The absolute counterintelligence security matrix. The entire operation is running under active military-civilian monitoring frameworks to neutralize institutional greed or obstruction. Keep your personal calculations completely confidential. Do not post your specific numbers on public forums, do not forward official system notification codes, and never reveal your secure appointment location to third-party brokers. The finish line is fully visible on the tracking monitors. Rest your mind, organize your data packets, and stay ready for the primary signal override. Sunday, July 12, 2026 Black Swan Kinetic, Protocol 19 full completion logged. The Federal Reserve liquidation is terminal. The absolute freeze currently creeping through the international corporate banking tickers this morning has nothing to do with routine market volatility. While the mainstream network anchors are desperately instructing you to watch artificial currency adjustments and minor central bank policy shifts, the live telemetry from the internal network shows an absolute, tactical decapitation. On Sunday, July 12, 2026 at exactly 3 o'clock EST, Protocol 19 entered its final, non-reversible completion phase. The Federal Reserve System has officially lost its primary administrative routing certificates, and the legacy paper matrix has run out of broadcast range. The Global White Hat Alliance has finalized the hard override, and the operational logs for the next 48 hours are locked into the live backend. Chapter 1: The System Flips. Protocol 19 has triggered the absolute migration of global monetary routing. The legacy SWIFT network data hubs in Brussels and New York have been permanently decoupled from the primary ledger lines. The entire baseline architecture has transitioned to the Quantum Financial System, QFS, where every single transaction pool, international settlement, and corporate clearance is forced to execute through clean, digital asset-backed channels. Chapter 2: The Golden Standards Activation. The era of speculative, printer-on-demand fiat paper is dead. The US dollar and euro corporate illusions are hitting an absolute wall. Under the strict enforcement of the new global economic protocols, every currency digital asset line must be anchored directly to verified, audited physical precious metals. The UN-backed, synthetic liabilities that the cabal use to manipulate energy and housing sector assets in real time. Chapter 3: The Media Spectrum Decapitation. The Mockingbird synchronization is breaking in broad daylight. As the financial infrastructure of the old elite collapses, their private funding lines for the major media cartels are hitting absolute zero. Decentralized truth networks via secure Starlink quantum encryption relays are already spreading across the global bandwidth, completely bypassing the corporate gatekeepers and preparing the public grade for the unsealed military tribunal disclosures. Pay close attention to the sudden, unannounced early branch closures and restricted digital access notices at major commercial banking institutions in your area today. They cannot generate paper debt to balance their sheets anymore, and their private authority keys have been permanently revoked. They designed the matrix to make you believe their financial iron curtain was indestructible. But the master switch has been flipped from the inside, the validation metrics are live, and the old world has officially run out of air. The reset is going kinetic. The sovereign era is fully live. Saturday, July 11, 2026, boom, it's finally law. The Fed is officially banned from issuing a digital dollar, protecting your privacy forever. Sunday, July 12, 2026, breaking special report: the uproar about war isn't about Iran, it's about killing Trump and MAGA, the truth behind the conflict and globalist order. Sunday, July 12, 2026, Quantum Trump SAR ignites, Jazara Protocol, Farmers' Revenge erupts, and the final reset returns power to the people. Sunday, July 12, 2026, explosive bombshell, Trump strikes final blow to the IRS, tariffs in, income tax out, Trump's signature on dollar signals return to pre-1913 prosperity and true sovereignty. Sunday, July 12, 2026, Joe Rogan, DNC staffer Seth Rich was murdered because he leaked Hillary Clinton and John Podesta's emails that laid out their plot to rig the 2016 election. The DNC, Clinton emails that Seth leaked also helped confirm online research that Washington, D.C. was being blackmailed and run by a massive pedophile ring with many of them linked directly to satanic worship activity and that Pizzagate was real. Seth Rich ended up murdered after leaking all those emails to Julian Assange. Sunday, July 12, 2026, the deep state just tried to take down Air Force One. They failed. Trump knew. On July 9, Donald J. Trump was scheduled to fly out of Turkey on the new Qatari-donated Boeing 747-8. At the last possible second, he switched to the old Air Force One. The media called it a security precaution. It wasn't a precaution. It was a counter-operation. Strike 1, the sabotage exposed. Military intelligence intercepted a highly encrypted communication originating from a server farm in Langley, Virginia. The target, the avionics control system of the new Boeing 747-8. The deep state didn't just want an assassination. They wanted an unfortunate aviation tragedy to plunge the republic into chaos. They compromised the Qatari supply chain. They planted the exploit. They waited for takeoff. But Trump was already 3 steps ahead. The switch to the old Air Force One wasn't random. It was the exact moment the trap snapped shut on the traitors. Strike 2, the media blackout begins. Why did the Trump administration just issue emergency subpoenas to several New York Times journalists? Because the media wasn't just covering up the story. They were part of the operation. Then each reporters received the subpoenas because military intelligence has the digital footprints proving they were briefed on the aviation tragedy before Trump was even scheduled to board the plane. They had the pre-written articles ready to publish. They were the cleanup crew. Now, they are co-conspirators in treason. The classified intel, black small square emoji, Operation Sky Shield, the protocol that secured the president, black small square emoji, Subpoena Alpha 7, the active warrants for the media handlers, black small square emoji, Langley override, the captured server data proving domestic coordination. The deep state thought they could eliminate the commander-in-chief at 30,000 feet. Instead, they just handed military intelligence the exact coordinates of their entire
Graham assassinated by the deep state, I believe so. And we're seeing Iran getting hammered right now because they attacked the U.S. base. They attack, shipping in the Hormuz Strait, and, we slam them back pretty hard. We have been for the last couple of days. But they came in and really hammered U.S. base, and now all bets are off, and we're just hammering the crap out of Iran right now. So a lot of this stuff is happening. We're going to discuss it. So first of all, I'd like to thank all of you that came in and very generously donated to Craig Lund, Silicon Satan author. We did a show yesterday, and you guys really came out, and he before he came on Sean Atwood's show a little while ago, he was almost halfway to his goal of taking money. It's the first time he's ever taken money in his life, but he needed it. He also told me that his book sales increased massively and propelled him up the numbers in the Amazon ranking. So good job, everybody. Thank you. He went on Sean Atwood's show, kind of talked about his experience, in the jail and so forth is kind of where they focused. Love Sean Atwood. He has a great show, has a great podcast. He's had Sean on, he's had Craig on many times, and big view shows. He's got well over 1 million subscribers, but it barely moved the numbers as far as people giving. Hopefully that'll change. Maybe later it will change over the next few days or so forth, as far as Sean Atwood's viewers coming in and seeing that and being inspired to donate. But we know Sean is in the UK, and the UK is basically a communist country, so they don't have a lot of money. So unless you're the deep state, of course, that's where the deep state is basically founded, and actually mainly located in the city of London. They have a lot of money, but they're not going to give to Sean Atwood because Sean Atwood, or to Craig Lund, because Craig Lund is exposing them. All right. So again, thank you guys. He thanks you. He told me to thank you, and very generous. We have a fraction of the people that Sean Atwood has, but we gave a lot, right? So congratulations, because we are still a merit-based country, and we earn our money, and we give our money where we feel that it deservedly needs to go. Right? So, and that's what we did with Craig Lund. So fantastic. All right, so let's talk about the crazy boy, Lindsey Graham. So I'm from South Carolina, grew up in Columbia, South Carolina, where he went to the University of Columbia in Columbia, South Carolina. The Gamecocks, fighting Gamecocks, got a degree there. I almost went to the Gamecocks, and they wanted me to play. They wanted me to be a running back there, but I was like, no. I'm not so into school because you guys are dumbing us down. I would go into classes and I would teach a teacher sometimes. So I'm super book smart. I'm super intelligent, but I feel that the educational system dumbs us down. And I was like, nope, I wanted to be a Navy SEAL as a little boy, and so that's where I went. So that was a great. That I did that. I'm very happy about that, and had great experience. Yeah, I wanted to do the football thing, but the real calling was being a Navy SEAL. So like I said, I'm happy about that. The other calling was to be in the CIA, be like a James Bond guy, and I experienced that on a very fast, incredible level as well. So 35 years in the SEAL teams and the CIA, and now I'm out. And I'm sharing information that's helping people, understand what's really out there. The real enemy is within, like we've talked about quite some time. And the other dream that I had, the third dream that I had, was to build a big business that would help people, and that's what I'm doing with LifeWave. So get that water machine. So X39, Celergize, and the water machine. You're gonna outlive everybody else, and you're gonna be healthy doing it. All right. So great stuff that we have right now as far as information. Early this morning, my brother Nino called me, or called my wife, because she handles my shows, and so he said, "Hey, would Mike like to come on and talk about Lindsey Graham?" And I was like, "What?" It's like I didn't even know he was gone. So I looked it up, and sure enough, Lindsey Graham was gone. I was like, yeah, I was surprised he got reelected, to tell you the truth. I'm kind of shocked the people of South Carolina voted him in again. Maybe they didn't. Maybe he got selected. But regardless, he voted almost straight across the board with President Trump. President Trump was in, he was on. But, he had a buddy, John McCain. And John McCain was a warmonger. And he took Lindsey under his wing. Lindsey, was a JAG officer, Judge Advocate General Force guy in his career for 33 years. So 4 years active duty, and then the rest of it was National Guard and so forth. But, served his country, helped a lot of people out. So, I salute him for that. He was not openly, like the same gender. we'll call it that. I don't care what you do in your bedroom, quite frankly, but he liked boys, right? A lot. And the people that are in the community there in Washington, D.C. that, called him out on it. All right. So it's like, Lindsey, you're like one of us, but you're like you like the boys a little too much, right? So, he went to Ukraine quite often, and that's where a lot of trafficking happens. So he probably, because I've seen these people when I worked in the for the State Department for protecting Ambassador Bremer, and then for the CIA, basically protecting case officers and sometimes dignitaries, depending on what was going on in different countries, in Pakistan and Iraq and Afghanistan, other countries. Dignitaries would come in, and because I'm a security guy, a very high level security guy, they would ask us to come in and help out. So we did that often. But you get to see what goes on behind the scenes, guys. Not good, right? I've talked about this. These people are, not all of them, of course, but a lot of them are quite evil of the things that they like to do behind the scenes. And so anyway, Lindsey, probably every time he went to Ukraine, he got to play, right? And they know that Lindsey liked to play with the children, right? I saw that was the thing that Hillary did as well, right? And when she came to Pakistan, I was like, they wanted me to roll around and protect her with because I'm a machine gun guy. All right, so they're like, we need your weapon to protect Hillary. I was like, I was kind of half joking, kind of half serious, that maybe I would turn that on her, and so they're like, okay, you're not going to be on the detail. So one of the people that was on the watch that watched the little hooch that she was staying in, it was basically the person that was in charge there of the State Department allowed her, because she's the head of the State Department, have his residence. It was a nice little residence. And one of the guys that, because everybody was like, they were shocked that I would say that, because, and it's probably a good thing that a guy of my caliber said it, because anybody else, they'd probably be out. But anyway, the guy that was in charge of watching her residence overnight said that little children came in and they didn't leave. Right. So we know these people do this kind of stuff. And he came to me later, says, I didn't believe what we were talking about. But I saw it for myself. And he never worked for the CIA, us security guys ever again. Right. That was his last. I think it was like he'd only been doing it a few times, and that was his he was about 3 or 4 times he'd been over, and that was the last one. So you see something like that, it's just tough. It's real tough, guys. So to continue, but eventually, they hammered me. He hammered me for I think one reason, that was because of the UFO stuff, which is now starting to come out. So that's really good. And you're like, why would a security guy get hammered? Because I made a comment on a guy that was talking about how he was like in Area 51, and I was like, that guy was legit. They're like, they were trying to destroy him. They didn't like that, so they destroyed me. So that's the way these guys are. So reason I tell you that is because the deep state, you work for the deep state like Lindsey Graham did, and you're expendable. You're expendable. And that's what happened with Lindsey Graham. So we're going to go a little bit into that. Now, today, early in the morning, like I was talking about, I did a show with Nino. Let me show you, how deep this rabbit hole goes as far as some of the things that they do. And they've already got Cory Booker came out early this morning. He's already commenting about Lindsey. And so I have it. This is the show I did this morning with my brother Nino, and this is what I shared with him. Yeah, absolutely. Now, Cory Booker came out right away and made this statement. I want you to listen to this.
But I pray that he is reunited with his friend, John McCain.
His friend, John McCain. He prays that he's reunited with his friend, John McCain. Yeah. All right. John McCain, whose coffin was covered with a wrinkled flag. Watch what happens with Lindsey. Is he going to get a wrinkly flag on his coffin? I would say probably. But now that all of us are aware of that, who knows? I doubt they'll put a good flag on his coffin, guys, because he's a traitor, and traitors get wrinkled flags, just like John McCain did. John McCain and Lindsey, both, who used to go and to Ukraine, and were part of the reason why Ukraine is fighting Russia now, right? Ukraine, that for hundreds of years was part of Russia, and now Russia's having to fight for its existence against NATO, that is using Ukraine as a proxy in the fight against Russia, right? So when I was in the CIA, we'd always have these morons that were trained in the Russian way of surveillance and counter surveillance and all that kind of stuff. They would come to the Middle East, where we had learned how to deal with terrorists and how to basically stay invisible to a great extent. And if we were potentially compromised, we would jiggy and clear our tail, clear our rear view, as we called it, rear view mirror, and make sure. There's great ways to do that in the Middle East. It's real easy. Because the traffic there is like very hectic, very crazy. You can, zig and zag through the traffic real quick. I knew how to do that and I take turns, zig through the traffic, and whoever's trying to tell us is gone. Now, these morons from Russia, the Russia CIA guys, which is still happening, because I see people that are, talking about the strikes that are going on in Iran or that are going on in Ukraine. And I'm like, you're a CIA puppet boy trying to put out good information. You have a lot of information. How do you get all this information, right? And you're always slamming Russia. You're a CIA boy. All right. So the bad CIA guys, there is a good side out there, but they're compromised quite often too. I would see compromised people in our program. So they're everywhere. The deep state is everywhere. All right. So you have to learn to see them, how to work around them, how to try and isolate them so they don't like infect what you're trying to do, which oftentimes they try to do. So we'd have these stupid Russia people come over, and they would like cruise around, like, if they get a tail or a follow in Russia, they just do what they naturally do. And the Russians will be like, okay, they're not doing anything suspicious, so we can lay off. But that's not something you do in the Middle East. In the Middle East, you get your butt blown up. All right. So these idiots that would come from the Russia group, Russia trained, they would do that. They get compromised, and then they would come in and compromise us. And so we would have safe houses that I helped, set up and all that kind of stuff. And then we'd have the ISI, which is the CIA equivalent, that was basically in bed with, as we know now, with the Taliban and so forth. That's how we got rid of Osama bin Laden. The ISI had been hiding him out, and then we figured out where he was, and now he's history, right? So these morons from the Russia group. So if you see somebody supporting Ukraine, they're like Lindsey Graham. They're deep state puppet boys, right? And puppet boys can be taken out very easily because they have a lot of people that are in their system, right? Just like they took out JFK, right? So I was watching, it's funny because I was watching 7 Days in May, which was a movie that was put out, is off a book that was written in 1962 that was talking about a coup that happened to the presidency, that the Joint Chiefs did not agree with the president, and so they did a coup on him. Well, JFK read that book and said that should be put into a movie. Unfortunately, a Manchurian Candidate. So they couldn't find a Manchurian Candidate in the time frame they needed to take out JFK. So they did it themselves. Right? They got the, we've had James Files on that talks about he's a shooter behind a picket fence and all this. These are very dangerous, very criminal people, guys, right? And they have incredible assets. They control parts of military, like the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That's the top. And remember when President Trump came out and said he had all the generals and all the admirals. He's like, I was 45, 46, and 47. You don't like that? There's a door. So he's in their face like JFK was. And so they took JFK out. So I'm watching this. I'm like, this might be they might be trying to do this to President Trump, because remember, President Trump just recently said, they may take me out. They? Who's they? They being the deep state, the city of London, little puppet masters, right? So, and you have people that are calling that out, and that's one of the things that's tough for a lot of us, because they don't like that. They try to control information, and that movie was just, maybe if it had come out earlier, maybe it would have had an influence, and maybe people would have been more aware. But I think a lot of people, my parents, they said absolutely JFK was assassinated, and Lyndon Johnson was in on it. My parents said that. They told me that when I was a kid, and everybody knew. Everybody in that time frame knew that our president had been assassinated by hidden figures, right? So is that going to happen again to our president? They've already tried that, obviously. I think they capture that operation, and then they fake the assassination. I think they did the same thing with Charlie Kirk, right? Other people have different opinions. That's fine. Those are my opinions, and you know that I'm well informed and have a lot of insight. All right. So yeah, there were a ton of shooters. Terry, very good. That day in November, 1963. I was 7 years old when Kennedy was killed. Which Kennedy, Becky? Really? I was like, I think 3 or 4. So I'm assuming you're talking JFK. So you probably have a good memory of it. With me, all the grown-ups kept me from the TV, and I could see them whispering about stuff, and I didn't know what was going on. I'm a little kid, 3 years old. But I like John. I remember seeing the funeral, and John saluted, right? And of course, the deep state took him out too, so that Hillary Clinton could take his spot as a senator in New York, because he was going to run for senator in New York. And they were like, nope, we're going to take him out. And of course, they didn't take him out. Again, they knew what they were going to do. There's been a lot of people that told me that he's still around. So he's in the background, and he needs to stay that way for a while until we fix this deep state problem, right? So deep state took out Lindsay. Now, of course, they control these guys. They have dirt on them. Of course, Lindsay, like little boys, like I talked about. There was a scene kind of recently where he was in Disney World, and he's busted lying about a trip to Disney World. So obviously we have pictures, but there was also video of him walking around with this. I think that's what is that? Little Mermaid bubble wand, right? So he's looking for kids, right? If we could see the video, which you're not, I mean, maybe you can find that video, but I've looked for that video. I know it was out initially, and then it was gone, right? Because the deep state controls this stuff, guys. And so he was intoxicated. What it was he was intoxicated with, I don't know. But they have these pictures, and they have this video, or they had this video for public viewing. If Lindsay didn't stay in line, or if Lindsay didn't do what they wanted. So I guess they posted these pictures as a threat to him that they could reveal, right? So again, he's a puppet boy for the deep state. Now, I think the reason why they took him out was because he wasn't doing what they wanted, right? And or he was a threat for revealing what they were doing. So those are only two things that they take these people out for. If they're doing what they want, if they're puppeting them, all right, we're all good. But if they're not doing what they want, because I think he was starting to lean towards President Trump a little bit, trying to, I don't know, maybe work both sides of the fence a little bit. He says, no, I need to do this, and so I stay relevant with President Trump. And, maybe he got off their program, or their perceived program, like JFK, right? So, and we know Mitch McConnell. Obviously, he got off track too, so he kept falling down and getting and having problems, and it was glitching, and people would come up and like touch him, and he would glitch, he'd freeze, and then somebody else would lead him away, and they control these people, right? So Glitch Mitch basically had I don't know if she was his handler or if she was, just there. Okay, we're going to give you China girl, right? Whatever. And so I've said for years that he was controlled and influenced by China, right? It's easy to spot these people now, guys. Hopefully you guys are there. You're starting to see this type of stuff. We've been sharing this stuff for 6 years, or at least I have. I know Nino's been at it. Scott McKay, SG and on. There's some good people out there sharing good information. So just do a little research on Lindsey Graham, and you're going to start to see some of the stuff. And it's funny because Nino and I were talking about people go down the rabbit hole with us. I was like, yeah, they go down the rabbit hole. They get stuck down there sometimes, and they're like calling out, Nino, Jaco, help me. I'm down the rabbit hole. I don't know how to get out of here. Like, well, follow my voice, and I'll lead you out. Watch out for that body there. That's Lindsey Graham. Don't step on him and trip over him. And Mitch McConnell. We don't know if he stay away from him. He's on the wall over there. Stay away from him because you don't know. So you gotta. It's crazy out there, right? These knuckleheads are playing their little game behind the scenes, but we're on to them for the most part. And they know that. They can't control us like they used to. Most of us, I think at this point, maybe I say most of us, it's probably a small percentage, unfortunately, but everyone that's watching me at this point, most of us, right? So my audience is being squeezed. I looked at my video yesterday. I was, why are the views so low? And I'm doing videos. If I see glitching, I'm like, I switch. They're on to me now because I've been talking about it. See, you got to be careful how you tell them how you deal with them, because they'll find another way to F with you, right? So I've been talking about how I switch my internet around, and I have other means to if they start glitching me. So I'm not seeing the glitching, but evidently the sound was all glitched, and people were like, oh, you're all glitched. And well, if you stayed with it, it stopped glitching, but they hammered it, or maybe they did it afterwards. I don't know. So that's why the views are down, right? But my views are down across the board anyway. They're suppressing the hell out of me, algorithm-wise and so forth. So usually my views are like, the stuff I reveal, it should be hundreds of thousands of views. But, it's just massively, massively suppressed because it's the deep state controlling it, guys. Now, fortunately, we can get in here and share this information. Now, they're going to take our people out. Yeah, right. They blew up his heart. They gets blows out, and it doesn't come out the end anymore because it's blowing out. Everybody's had a hose pipe and done that, right? And so that's what they're saying happened to him. So if that happens, oxygens get to the brain and you go bye-bye, right? So whether it was that or whether it was, some kind of compound they gave him, they tried that against me several times, but I'm super healthy. Thank God. Thank you, God. Thank you, Lifeway. And it's been very tough for them to take me out. All right. Now we're going to look at Ariel, Proletario 1 on X. He came in with a very, very interesting take on this, which I completely agree with. So it's a good read if you want to figure out, a little bit deeper. You want to go down the rabbit hole, then you want to go to Ariel's site on X. There he is right there, Ariel, right? So I've been following him for quite some time. My son turned him on to me, and I saw that he was following me. I was like, okay, cool. So we speak the same language in a lot of ways. Now he says there are only a few channels on this platform that understand what has occurred with Lindsey Graham. And he has a Patreon site, which I, of course, subscribe to. And he goes deeper in a lot of this information. So he says Zelensky's inner circle. So he was in Ukraine like a day or so ago. I think like a day ago. Even President Trump was said, yeah, Lindsey Graham, he flew back and he called me at 7:24. I think that's the time he said. And he's like, I feel a little tired. I think I'm going to, get some sleep. So I guess he was so tired, he decided to go to sleep forever, right? For the forever sleep. And so Trump said, I just talked to him like I got a call at 1:30 in the morning or something like that. And they told me that he had passed away suddenly. Right. So he's like, I don't know. He's like, I don't understand. It's like, it's a mystery or whatever he said, paraphrasing his words. But it's not a mystery to us guys. And the white hats don't do this type of stuff. This is absolutely a black hat operation. So he goes on to talk about Zelensky's inner circle plus the old oligarchs. So he's there in Ukraine looking at because there's a big war that's going on with drones right now. So both sides are like trying to destroy each other's infrastructure for oil and fuel. So gasoline, places where stations and so forth are getting hundreds and hundreds of gasoline stations throughout Ukraine now are being blown up, especially along the front where Russia and Ukraine are duking it out. And Russia is just constantly moving forward, constantly taking down more and more of Ukrainian soil as every day goes by now. 1,000-mile front, and they're just like hammering away at Ukraine. So they tried to go after their oil. Ukraine did. So where do they get the drones? They get the drones from, I guess, us now, because Lindsey Graham was there. He went to the place where we're shipping the parts so they can put them together. And that plant just got hit right after Lindsey Graham was there. So maybe they're watching. And so they did like this televised, show that, we're helping Ukraine. And then they blew that factory up. So there's no more drones being made there. Right. And who knows, maybe Ukraine or the deep state thought that maybe Lindsey Graham had some, brought that on. Who knows? But anyway, and that's why they took him out. Because I think there's no question in my mind that they took him out, and McConnell and others. And we're going to talk about that. So, good guys. They take out the good guys too. Of course, they take out the good guys who tried to take me out. And we had our buddy Nino he's talking about on our show that all these helicopters are flying around. I've had a lot of helicopters flying around here too. I've had helicopters fly alongside me and my heart seized up, and, I was able to resist that. But, they have their ways, they have their means. Some of us can resist. And, Nino said, there was helicopters flying around his house a lot. And then his heart seizes up and he falls down unconscious. Prayers for Nino too. All right. So, so all of us are under threat by these people. Elements inside State Department and the permanent bureaucracy who run the Ukraine file. They prefer controllable assets. Graham was all puffy. It's like, but he says, so is President Trump. And, Alex Jones is a Trump hater now. So that's probably why he's going to disappear. But I saw, all the people that are commenting on Graham. I'm like, I haven't looked at Alex Jones in a while. I'll hold my nose and look. And of course, he had to throw in Trump, being swollen too. I don't see that, but whatever, Alex, good luck out there. I don't think you're going to last much longer, but anyway, it's probably the same thing, guys. It's probably that heart attack machine, and it comes in and blows up the heart, right? That's kind of what it felt. My heart was getting ready to explode, and, I have exceptionally good control of my body. So fortunately I was able to resist that, and they tried it over and over and over again. And then I finally got off this one section of the Pacific Crest Trail where I was on a ledge that if I would have fallen in a ravine and no one would have found me. They wouldn't have known it. You know, they were like, well, there's got to, because there's so many missing people every year on the Pacific Crest Trail, right? And there's lots of different ways they take them, of course. But anyway, I got to the point where I could get off that ledge, and I hightailed it into this wooded area because the helicopter would go back and forth, making sure there was no one could see how I was being attacked by this helicopter that had no markings, no lights, and blacked out windows. So anyway, it looked for me. It was hovering around me and so forth. It went back in the woods where I was because it figured that's probably where I ran. It couldn't find me because I went invisible. Right? I'm a Navy SEAL. Yeah, still. Right. So it could find me, and then it flew away, and then I continued on my way. No longer on the trail in the back wooded area along the trail, but and then I camped out that night and so forth. And I got other stories about that. So crazy times. You know, we're starting to see more of this. Graham was tied to the same South Carolina to Wall Street networks that overlap the military industrial players. Lockheed, Raytheon, contractors who've made billions on Ukraine. We know that. That's why this war continues on. That's why President Trump can't get a peace deal. Really, the biggest reason is because there's Nazis there, NATO Nazis. And they're being funded by NATO Nazis. And Russia is fighting for its existence. And that's why they're continuing to fight. And they're like, yeah, we'll make a peace agreement. But really, Russia wants to take down all of Ukraine and make sure these Nazis never had an influence ever again. And I don't know, maybe they'll probably go into Poland too, because that's where they have the concentration camps during World War II. And they weren't just exterminating Jews in those concentration camps in Poland. Everybody that was a problem for the deep state, right? Which was Nazi Germany at that time, or a puppet of the deep state was Nazi Germany. Of course, Italy. A lot of the drones that are being made are made by Italy, right? That are being used by Ukraine, and also Japan. So Japan, of course, you know, we've had some problems with Japan over the years, but I think for the most part, Japan is not a problem, but we'll see. We'll see if Japan is going to be robbed. Japan might be like it was in the 2000, the first to go in the stock market crash. So watch the Far East. I'm looking at the Far East with all these attacks that are going on in Iran right now. In the Far East, Asian, looks good. Of course, China's getting hit by a lot of typhoons, right? Wow, how about that? And of course, Japan, I guess if they get out of line, they get an earthquake. And they just recently had one of their prime ministers, a former prime minister, was assassinated on the streets. So if they get out of line, they have ways to remind them, who's really in charge. So that's what we're seeing right now. So do you really believe Lindsey Graham inspecting that drone factory in Ukraine was going to end well for him in general? Do you believe that when McCain and Graham took that photo together in Ukraine, that they were both committing treason? Yes. That's why McCain, remember Trump said no name, right? He wouldn't even mention him. And he wouldn't say his name. And then he got the wrinkly coffin, just like Daddy Bush, George W. And George H.W. Got the wrinkly, flag too. And he was part of the JFK assassination. He was the head of the teams. So do you honestly believe or think that Donald Trump didn't know about Graham's under the table dealings with Ukraine? When you see that wrinkled flag for McCain, right? They knew. And he does know. Although he says, President Trump, he's such a comedian to me because I know the bigger picture. He's like, Lindsey was like family. Yeah. Oh, my God. So when Trump was running the first time, he was running against Lindsey. He was one of the people he was running against. And President Trump basically dropped Lindsey's phone number so that people could call him and give him shit about being an asshole. And so Lindsey was so pissed off about that, he put his phone and he said, "This is what I feel about Trump." And he took his golf club and slammed his phone. Right. So of course, when Trump got in office, they're all buddies. And, Lindsey's basically, he goes where everybody else goes. All right. So he's like, he buddied up to Trump. And then when Trump's out, he's like, "Well, I'm not on the Trump train anymore." And then when Trump came back, he's like, "Hey, Trump, yay." It's like, it's such a knucklehead. All right. These people that think they're going to get away with this shit. All right. So, Lindsey, do not get me wrong. Lindsey Graham voted for Donald Trump on key things that kept POTUS happy. But please do not mistake that with being clean. No, he was not clean by any stretch of the imagination, like I've been putting out. I've been putting this out for a while. They thought it was going to be, so here it is right here. Graham shaking hands while pushing that bill. Basically, Zelensky's inner circle, the old oligarch remnants of Russia, Kolomoisky network remnants, Burisma-style energy players. They've lost patience with Washington hawks. So you're going to see more of this. You're going to see more deep state players within the political arena. And that's one of two reasons, because they're not able to get anything out of them anymore. Like they couldn't get anything more from Graham, or they're seeing them as a potential threat to reveal who their puppet masters are. All right. So this is the stuff we're going to continue to see going forward, guys. And it's going to heat up. We've seen two Republicans now within, well, if you take the time where McConnell's been in the hospital, it's a few weeks before they took out another one. But, before I brought it up, right? I brought it up and I was like, where is McConnell? He's been in the hospital for a couple of weeks. We haven't heard from him. And then we get Laura Loomer right after I put that out. She jumps on that. And she's he's brain dead. And I think I just saw today that he made a comment. And what else did I say? If he comes back out, it's the drone. It's the drone McConnell, right? Or yeah. Or the not drone, but the what, when you make another person, it's like the what do you call that? The God, I can't think of the name. Anyway, they make a double of you, and they do it with your genetics or whatever. Clone. Thank you, Tara. Clone. Everybody's saying clone. So everybody, Diana, yeah, clone. So help Mike's brain. Right. So they hit me with directed energy weapons a lot. It sucks. Clown. Yes, a clown 2.0. So again, just like we're seeing with the deep state puppet in Iran, and so I guess rumors are they had his leg blown off, and he was mutilated, and so, but he's making comments, kind of like clown 2.0 McConnell is starting to make comments as if he comes back out. They finally got the clone on board. So you start to see him, guys. If you see McConnell come out again, that's a clone. Now, obviously, like we saw with Biden, who was taken out by the good guys. It's like he went to, I guess, pulled him out. And was that because he was doing a lot of very bad things? Of course. So like we've heard from lots of people out there where they're talking about, people that, are in this organization, they use them and they abuse them, and they use they're clones or whatever, like they did with Biden. Now Biden was part of having his wife and his daughter killed in an accident. So they have to do a sacrifice, and once they do a sacrifice, then they can go the next level up. Now some of them will do their child. They'll have their child do transgender, kind of like what Cher did with her daughter, right? Her daughter became a boy, so they do that transgender thing, or they do a sacrifice. The ones that don't want to do a sacrifice, they do a transgender with the child, right? And that's some of the things that we're seeing, and we're starting to learn about. So as time goes on, we start to see their pattern. We start to call them out on it. And is that because Lucifer is, as we see with the Statue of Liberty, both sexes, right? So, that might be why. Statue of Liberty. Yeah, that's a funny one. But anyway, you think Cher's a dude? Maybe. It's possible. I mean, was her daughter given to her? She never, because did we ever see her pregnant? Is there any pictures of her pregnant? Kind of like Michelle Obama. They had like a little pictures of him with a belly, but those pictures can be taken later, and I'm sure that's what happened with that one. Obviously, because that is not a woman, as we know. Just look at the package. Every time that thing dances, you can say a thing like, "It's got a big one. Got a big one in the pants." Yep. So it's hard not to no prego pics. No prego pics of Cher. How about that? Cher told her mom, "I am a rich man." So, and she's part of the deep state. She's part of the sacrifice team and all that kind of stuff too. Photoshop. Yep. Definitely fabulous spoils. All right, so we're going to continue to see this stuff. Craig Lund is obviously helping us see a lot of this stuff. I'm helping you see a lot of this stuff. Nino, Scott, we're helping you guys understand. It's about money, and the deep state likes the money, and they don't want us to have any. All right, they don't want us to be creative. They want to control everything, because we get creative and we build something good, like a car that doesn't need oil or gas or anything like that. And then, or they like buy them out. We're going to buy that, and we're going to build that, and you're going to make a lot of money on that. So they buy it, and then time goes by. Well, why aren't you building it? Yeah, just go home and relax. We'll get back to you. And then they end up suicided. So that's what we've seen for quite some time. They want all the control. They want all the power. Imagine all of the technology that exists out there. The secret space program has to be secret because the deep state, which has their own space program, that basically reveals any of that, or talks even remotely about that. Kind of like what happened with me. I just like remotely said, yeah, that guy that's like said he was in Area 51, he's legit. They're trying to like Bill Brockbrader. So they're trying to completely, crush his back and say that he's a pedophile and all that stuff. That's what they do. If you are, they can easily control you or, destroy you, control you or destroy you, or kill you. And if they can't, control you and get what they want out of you. Iran. Why Iran? Well, why not Iran? Because they make a lot of money from that oil. Iran money laundering through the Federal Reserve in New York. Yes. So let's look at this. This is a good one. Now, recently, Mamdani, where's Mamdani at? He's in New York City, isn't he? Where's the Federal Reserve? New York City. So Iran has been involved in money laundering activities that include using foreign banks to process transactions through the U.S. financial system, including the Federal Reserve in New York. This has raised significant concerns. Yeah, that's treasonous, right? So everybody in the Federal Reserve should be tried for treason and executed. All right, Iran has engaged in extensive money laundering activities, particularly through foreign banks. And how does the Federal Reserve get its money? Through the IRS, stealing the money from us. Why do we have a revolutionary war? Because of unfair taxation without representation. So they're taking our money, and without representing us correctly, they're using that money to fund these wars and so forth. This is how it goes. Shadow banking networks, use of foreign banks, sanctions evasions, risk to national security. The facilitation of these transactions poses a threat to national security, U.S. national security, by allowing Iran to fund its military and nuclear programs. Hello. So our own Federal Reserve is helping Iran build nukes to control us in the world. What should happen to the Federal Reserve? It's pretty clear to me. The Federal Reserve proposes requiring banks to establish effective anti-money. So, oh, look, we're trying to make this right by making sure that banks, other banks, well, don't you control all the banks? Yes, but they're blaming it on the other banks, the little guys, right? Too big to fail, or little guys, whatever. Anyway, this is the way these clowns work, guys. It's becoming very obvious. We're starting to call all this out. IRS needs to go away. Federal Reserve needs to go away. President Trump has said this, right? He said this. He's working on it. And when that happens remains to be seen. So U.S. launches new strikes on Iran after Strait of Hormuz attack. And they went after one of our bases in Kuwait and did significant damage. So let's listen to a little bit of this.
War with Iran as U.S. forces launched another attack on Iran early today after the country again hit a ship in the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. forces hit about 140 military sites in Iran, including drone sites, ammunition storage, and surveillance locations.
All right, so Iran's getting hammered, and it's not affecting the stock market, all right? The stock markets of the world are like, oh, whatever. We're over it. We need to make money. We can't keep going up and down, up and down, up and down. Right. So that's probably what we're going to see. So Iran just smashed a key U.S. base in Kuwait, and satellites are revealing the damage. Whose satellite is that? Is that a CIA satellite? All right. All right. So here's the damage to this U.S. base. Fortunately, no U.S. personnel were injured. But as you guys can see, extensive damage to this base, and this causes problems for. It's a strategic hub in the region. It's a deployment center, operations across Western Asia, and the base plays a central role in moving forces, equipment, and supplies, while also supporting aviation, artillery, and armored units. So in return, we are absolutely hammering Iran right now, and it's like, oh, okay, you want to play that game? All right, now we're going to really hammer you. So that's what we got going on. I think within, I don't know, 6 weeks, maybe 2 months, we could see the end of this. If this rate of hammering continues, which I think it possibly will. There's a lot of naysayers out there. It's like the U.S. doesn't have any more missiles or bombs. They could do this for very long. That's bullshit. Right? I've seen them. There are a lot of them. All right, we got a lot. All right, so and they used that time to make sure the oil was being sent around the world, so it wouldn't crush the economies out there. And now. They used that time to build up all the munitions, and now they're being used. Right? So, and they're going to be used a lot. Yes, rods of God, use them. And of course, President Trump said thousands of missiles are going to come and get you. right? So it's on, guys. It's totally on. And I say, let's go ahead and hammer the hell out of them. If they're threatening to kill you, which you're on the kill list, you're at the top of the kill list. Lindsey Graham was all the way at the bottom. So are they going to work their way through the kill list? Is a deep state, because Iran's a deep state, is the deep state going to work through the kill list? Yeah, I think there's a possibility of that. Now, like we talked about with Lindsey, now Juan O'Savin was involved in taking him to a treatment center in Hawaii, but it was unfortunately too late, and we lost our buddy Scott Bennett. So another truther out there. Now, we know that Scott was going to Russia. Of course, the deep state probably did not like that. And just like they took out, a baddie, Graham, they took out a goodie, and that was Scott Bennett. So very sad when he died, but I felt right away, and I've never said this before, former U.S. Army psychological warfare officer. Now, he basically figured out who was funding terrorists, and he told which banks in the U.S. were doing that, and for doing his mission, doing his job as a Army officer he was thrown in jail. Obama threw him in jail. So he went to jail for disclosing who was funding terrorists. How about that? Right? He's lucky that he, I guess, lived a little bit longer, but I guess God had a plan for him. Thank you, God. All right. Wish you'd kept him a little bit longer here. But anyway, he wrote some books, about all that experience. He finally got out. Now, he also, did a lot of other things. He went to also Iran and said the Iranian people were very peaceful. They did not like their government, which we know now, of course, and they wanted to get rid of their government, but they had no recourse for that. All right, so he disclosed who was doing funding the terrorist, and Obama threw him in jail. Now, why didn't the Army back him up? Because it's corrupt too. Hello, it's corrupted too. Now, Mamdani is Muslim, yes, and so Iran, Muslim, extremist, yes. All right. Of course, they're, I've been around lots of Muslims. They're beautiful people. 97% of them or more. And it's just, I've said this for decades, just a few percentage of them, just like the deep state here, just a few percentage of them control the rest of it, right? For the most part. Now, Mamdani is siding with the enemy. Another treasonous boy, puppet boy of the deep state. Mamdani officials planned meeting with Iran envoy, and it was shut down by the State Department. So we have a good State Department now, all right? And so I was around the State Department during the time of Hillary. Of course, there's good people in the State Department, just like good people in the CIA and FBI, but there's also bad people. And a lot of times these bad people control a lot of stuff, right? And so Commissioner Anna Maria Arkila, I guess so we'll call it Arkila, had scheduled a sit-down with the Iranian envoy Iravana. Zoran Mamdani avoids direct answer about whether Iran is better off without the Ayatollah, right? Because he's a puppet boy of the deep state, and he knows he gets out of line. So a senior official in New York City, Mayor Zoran Mamdani's administration planned to meet with Iran's ambassador to the United Nations before the State Department reportedly intervened and the meeting was canceled. All right. So, we got a good State Department now with, little Marco. Right? So, as Trump used to call him. And I guess, he's been spotted with, pump heels and all that kind of stuff. But who cares, Marco? I don't care what size you are. But anyway, leader of the Mamdani administration's Office of International Affairs was scheduled to meet with Iran's permanent representative of the United Nations on Tuesday. So, and it was shut down. The reported intervention marks the second known instance in recent weeks in which the Trump administration has stepped in over the Mamdani administration's contacts with foreign leaders, highlighting growing federal scrutiny of New York City's international outreach under its new socialist mayor. Now, we know that New York, back before the Tsar was, taken down by the socialists and the Soviet Union was born, they formed in New York City. All right, so New York City and London have been, for a long time, have been a hotbed of socialism. And that's why we see Mamdani there, right? But this can't continue. This can't continue, right? So as more of this gets exposed, and I guess that's why they let him go in there to begin with, and all the other socialists in LA and Seattle and wherever else they're at, they're lining up, guys. They're lining up because they want to take over America. Absolutely. And their puppets that they'll use, just like Hitler used the brown shirts, will be the Muslims, right? The extremist Muslims, right? So that's obvious. That's what's happening. All right, so 15 dark facts about the 7 days in May. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But first of all, let's look at the actual movie itself. I'll show you, let's see. Oh, yeah, so Laura Loomer, she's all over the map. So, she's a mess. Did Russia just poison Lindsey Graham? Come on, Laura. Come on. Like, what the F? You're obviously a puppet girl, right? So just stop yourself or keep exposing yourself, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, the plot of 7 Days in May. So this is a movie like I was talking about earlier on. Will this happen to our president now like it did with JFK? Of course, it's always a possibility. Of course, they've already tried to do this, tried to stop President Trump out several times in assassination attempts, but it hasn't worked. That's right. Russia. Right, so, yes. And it's craziness. It's so funny. Not so much, but so I got this this morning and I'm looking at this and I'm like, and I don't know if I saw this movie in the past. It kind of looked familiar, but it was good to watch it. It's on YouTube. So you can watch it for free on YouTube. They spent millions of dollars back in the day to do this. And that was a lot of money. A lot of money back in the 60s, guys. And, of course, they had the top people in it. As you see here, they had the best of the best, Ava Gardner, Kirk Douglas, and Burt Lancaster. Burt Lancaster served in the military during World War II, and he served in the USO, right? And he didn't see combat action, but he was on the war front, and he served in the USO, entertaining the troops, keeping them motivated so they go out and fight, and be happy about it, I guess. And so after that, he started working in Hollywood. So he was a very famous Hollywood actor. So he plays basically a general that does not like that the president wants to. He was going to make a deal with the Russians on downsizing the nukes. That was played by Kirk Douglas. So he put it all together, brought it to the president, and at first they didn't believe, and then they did a little research and more people started to come, and then they figured it out, and then they stopped out the coup, and they got the resignation of a lot of the coup leaders, a lot of them were the Joint Chiefs, the top of the food chain, the very top, the leader of the Joint Chiefs, and then several down from him. They planned to do a coup, and it's a very good movie. I highly recommend you watch it. You can go watch it on YouTube, and you can speed it up. And it was made back in the day where here now you have to have all this special effects, keep people entertained. Back then it was just raw acting ability, and wow, it was really cool to see that. Again, we haven't seen that in a while. Stars these days and musicians and so forth, they get a lot of help. But back then, if you didn't have the talent, you weren't in the movies, right? So great movie, which I think will give you insight of what possibly could happen again, right? And President Trump has hinted that could happen. Of course, they're kind of like, going to blame it on Iran, but Iran is a deep state. They'll use their puppets. They'll use Lindsey Graham. They'll use McConnell. They'll use so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so ad infinitum. And if they don't work out, they'll just toss them away. Toss them away. All right. So you didn't work out for us. So bye-bye. And so we're going to see a lot of bye-byes, I think. So when you start to see these people going down, the deep state's basically telling us we're in charge, we're in control, and don't worry, we will be in control of you a lot more soon. That's what their intention are. But we're like, no, we don't want that, and we're going to expose you, and that's what we do on the show, guys. And again, you are a fantastic audience, and I love your comments in here. Usually I like focus on, Thune, absolutely. Problem boy. He's a puppet boy. Thune's a puppet boy. Obviously, isn't it good? So you guys are getting smart. A smart audience. So we keep it up. We keep it up. And if you see a McConnell, it's a clone, just like Biden was a clone. Yeah. So I remember that. I remember clone. Yay. So yeah. Thanks, bro, David. Back at you. So, all right. So we're being informed. We're out on the cutting edge of information. We're going down rabbit holes. We're not getting lost down those rabbit holes, because if you do get lost, you just listen for my voice. It'll bring you back up. So, but go out there, seek, and you will find, and the truth will set you free. Right. All right. Was Lindsey pro jab? Oh, that's a good question. I don't know about that one specifically, but he was pro J6. Demonstration was bad. He says he did a show one time. He says, if I was there and I had a gun, I would have shot at myself. Oh, really? Really? So he was pro J6 asshole. Yeah, because that's what, because they're about getting rid of Trump. So Trump was gone. So he's on the Trump train anymore. So now he's going to come out and, talk shit. And he talked shit for 4 years while Trump was out. And then he got back on the Trump train because that's the way he is. He's a switch hitter. He works both ways, right? I don't know if he's ever been with a woman. No, I'm not talking about that. But he worked both sides. Anyway, he flipped around a lot. That's right, back and forth. Which who's gonna pleasure me the most? Lindsey has never been bueno. Yes, no bueno, Lindsey. That's what we should call him. Yeah, so bad, so many are evil. But they're compromised from different ways. Thank you so much for the super chat. Love it, love you, thank you, love all of you. You're a magnificent, magnificent audience. So great show. Thanks a lot. A lot of you guys showed up today because I guess you missed yesterday because I had bad audio. So sorry about that. I do what I can, right? And some of you are like, redo the show. I do these shows. There's so much energy goes into doing a show, guys, doing the research, and then, of course, the show itself. When I show you guys a clip, I delete it. So it's like moving forward. So, yeah, you can still watch that. You can push through. I think the first part of that show had a lot of interference. If you gave up on it early, you can go back and get there. It looks like the end of it was still good. And then you guys that just pushed through it, love you guys. All right. I push through the good stuff too. This shit's going to continue to happen to us. So I'm glad this was a good one. You guys liked it. And you know the deal. Stay the love vibration. And I'll see you guys next time.
Judy note. Imagine prompt, dramatic cinematic nighttime scene of U.S. Navy SEALs in black tactical gear with face paint and suppressed rifles rescuing young American children ages 8 to 14 from the dark entrance of a remote zinc mine cave in eastern Cuba during an island-wide blackout. Commandos guide the frightened kids toward a waiting MH-60S Seahawks helicopter with green smoke marking the landing zone, moonlight piercing heavy clouds over the Cuban jungle, intense heroic atmosphere, photorealistic, highly detailed, tense and emotional lighting. The operation was all part of a much larger plan of Trump's global military alliance according to Ezra Cohen on Telegram. While you were counting cases on your television screen, the largest military operation in human history was taking place underground. Literally underground. Between March 2020 and December 2021, Special Operations Forces from 22 nations conducted coordinated raids on a network of tunnels stretching across every continent. The tunnel systems were not small. They connected major cities. Some ran for hundreds of miles. Some were equipped with rail systems, living quarters, and medical facilities. What they found inside those tunnels has never been officially disclosed. But the evidence is everywhere if you know where to look. Earthquakes were reported in areas with no seismic history. 2.5 to 4.0 magnitude tremors in Virginia, New York, Colorado, and beneath the White House itself. The USGS recorded them. The media ignored them. Controlled demolitions underground register as shallow earthquakes on seismographs. You were told to stay home to protect your health. You stayed home so you would not see what was being carried out of the ground. The lockdown was not a medical response. It was a military cover operation. And the children who were rescued will one day tell you themselves what was done to them in the dark. What we thought we knew, but didn't really know and now are supposed to know but don't have a clue. With clones, doubles, made-up movies Hollywood style and Trump's military alliance throwing more popcorn at us, it gets so confusing. Saturday, July 11, 2026, Bombshell Special Report, a different battle has begun. Lloyd Brunchen's explosive constitutional showdown could rock Washington and expose 387 members of Congress. Saturday, July 11, 2026, explosive report. The United States has been quietly buying Greenland since January. Saturday, July 11, 2026, boom, it's finally law. The Fed is officially banned from issuing a digital dollar, protecting your privacy forever. Saturday, July 11, 2026, 1913, the year America lost financial freedom, the Fed, income tax, Rockefeller Foundation, J.P. Morgan and the Titanic questions, the system that still controls your money. Saturday, July 11, 2026, U.S. debt clock breaking news, $5.5 trillion banking scam exposed. The Fed and 50 state credit union banks face off to free America from debt serfdom. Saturday, July 11, 2026, Bombshell Special Report, a different battle has begun. Lloyd Brunchen's explosive constitutional showdown could rock Washington and expose 387 members of Congress. Saturday, July 11, 2026, Historic bond redemption, the forgotten wealth that will shake the financial system, the secrets buried in vaults. Saturday, July 11, 2026, U.S. debt clock breaking news, $5.5 trillion banking scam exposed. The Fed and 50 state credit union banks face off to free America from debt serfdom. Be possible timing. On Thursday, June 18, 2026 at 3:14 a.m. EST, Starlink satellites went fully operational across all 14 global sectors. The Israeli Mossad media satellites, which controlled 92% of Western information networks for 4 decades, lost their ability to manipulate every narrative, election and market across the globe. Friday, July 3, 2026, Jazara/Nizara Protocols broadcast, all mortgages, credit cards and student loans linked to usury were frozen for liquidation. Saturday, July 4, 2026, Quantum Financial Keys overrode the legacy mainframe of the Vatican Bank and the assets of the corrupt were seized and redistributed to the Humanity Reclamation Fund. On Sunday, 5 July at 6:13 a.m. EST, Operation Mass Arrest 0705 began. 847 federal judges, 456 CIA officials, 234 senators/congressmen and 678 FBI officials arrested. Global liquidity release. Monday to 6, July 7, 2026, Trump's global military alliance took control of Greenland and the Arctic. Tues. July 7, 2026, Operation Freedom Anchor 0707 Green major arrests in organized crime crackdown. Black small square emoji, 24 arrests, members of international organized crime gang arrested, TRUE, black small square emoji, 11 arrests in California, India-based crime gangs, REAL, black small square emoji, federal indictments, multiple federal indictments filed, real.